Chapter 1660. The aunties in the female dormitory and the uncles in the male dormitory had the same problem. They slept very deeply. Because of this, many students from Min City Military Academy would escape in the middle of the night to play and have supper. Moreover, most of the students in Min City Military Academy were martial artists. Other than a few girls who studied military medicine, the rest of the boys were all military academy students. Naturally, their strength was not to be underestimated. After all, they were trained in the military academy. Naturally, they wouldn't be too bad. Those who played truant would hide a little, afraid that the aunties in charge of the dormitory would still be awake and would be caught patrolling. But what about Yunjian? She walked openly to the female dormitory's entrance. But the strange thing was that Yunjian's footsteps were light. It was like a female ghost floating on the ground without making any sound. Yunjian walked without making any sound, just like a female ghost. If someone saw this scene, it would be strange if they weren't scared to death. Yunjian's dormitory building was quite high. When Yunjian reached the second floor, just as she turned the corner on the second floor, a girl secretly ran over from the other side. Because Yunjian's footsteps were light, it was as if there was no sound at all, so the girl didn't notice that someone was coming down the stairs on the third floor. When Yunjian stepped on the stairs on the second floor, the girl happened to rush over from the corner. The moment she saw Yunjian, the girl nearly shrieked when she saw her due to the darkness and the fact that she did not make any noise when she walked. In the end, she clamped her hand over her mouth to stop herself from shrieking. Yunjian immediately dodged to the side when the girl rushed over and avoided the girl's collision. But the girl was pitiful. She was so scared that her forehead hit the wall hard. She forced herself not to make a sound. It wasn't until she saw that Yunjian was a human who had played truant like her that the girl lowered her voice and shouted at Yunjian. "What are you doing? Don't you see if there's anyone here?" The girl shouted at Yunjian in a muffled voice. Yunjian blinked but didn't pay much attention to him. Tonight's moon was especially round. The round moon shone on the earth. Over at the dormitory building, the girls could see Yunjian's face clearly. Yunjian's night vision was very good. Naturally, she could see the girl's face clearly. Just now, it was the girl who rushed over. She was not wrong, so Yunjian ignored the girl and went straight downstairs. "You!" The girl didn't dare to yell loudly, so after a muffled sigh, she also sneaked downstairs. The door to the female dormitory was locked, so the dormitory manager was snoring. The girls' dormitory was surrounded by fences, and the door was locked. There was no way to get out. There were already 4 or 5 girls standing there. It could be seen that there were many people who sneaked out of the school to play in the middle of the night. "Are you here yet? Are they here yet? Did senior sister bring the key?" These girls bent over and snuck out in the middle of the night. They didn't even have the courage to stand up straight. "Not yet. I wonder what senior sister is doing. I feel that if this goes on, we'll be discovered by the dormitory manager." These girls stood at the door anxiously. Their voices were as soft as the buzzing of insects. Just as the girls said this, they saw a figure looming at the stairs. "She's here. Senior sister is here," one of the girls said happily. However, before the girls could rejoice, they saw a person with a high ponytail walking over with a straight back. She didn't look like a truant at all. The girls were so disappointed that they were discouraged. "Why isn't senior sister here yet?" one of the girls complained softly. Just as she finished speaking, she saw Yunjian walk straight to the door. She reached out to touch the door lock. "Hey, what are you doing? Can you open the door without the key?" "If you open the door without the key, not only will you shake the door lock and alert the dormitory manager, you won't be able to open the door." "Which class are you from?" Are you stupid? Before Yunjian could reach out to touch the door lock, a girl immediately stood up to stop her. However, before the girl could reach out to stop Yunjian inserted the thin iron wire in her hand into the door lock. She shook the door lock slightly twice. Then, Yunjian opened the door under the girl's gazes. She didn't look like a truant student at all. She straightened her back and walked out as if nothing had happened. Seeing Yunjian open the door so easily, the girls were completely dumbfounded. Chapter 1661. Who was she? How could she open the door just by fiddling with the lock without using a key? Why would she need a key if the lock was there? The girls who were standing at the same spot gaped in shock as they watched Yunjian walk away. It was only when the girl who almost bumped into Yunjian sneaked down the stairs that they realized what had happened. The girl who almost bumped into Yunjian was stunned when she saw the door open. Then, she asked softly, "How did this door open?" The girl who just walked out opened it. She just fiddled with the door and it opened. One of the girls replied in a daze. At this moment, Yunjian had already arrived at the wall surrounding the south gate of the school where they had agreed to meet. There were quite a few people standing there. Apart from Chu Ning's group of 6, there were also a few boys and a few girls. It was not hard to tell that a few of the boys were Chu Xiangnan's buddies. As for the girls, they were probably the girlfriends of Chu Xiangnan's buddies. Of course, 1 or 2 of the girls had tagged along to hang out. Min City Military Academy was huge and there were many girls studying military medicine. Therefore, there were 3 female dormitories while there were more than 10 male dormitories. Chu Ning, Jiang Weiwei, and these girls were definitely not in the same dormitory as Yunjian. There were lights near the south wall, so Yunjian could see the faces of the people in front of her clearly when she arrived. There's a beauty here. When Yunjian appeared, one of the boys whistled and looked at Yunjian with a slightly teasing tone. When young boys and girls stood together, the boys would always have a sense of vanity. They would want to show off their most handsome or knowledgeable side in front of everyone. On the other hand, girls loved to show off how they were different from other girls in front of the boys. To put it bluntly, it was to show off their charm. "Xiangnan, you're amazing. How do you know such a beautiful woman?" The guy who had teased Yunjian earlier even snapped his fingers at Chu Xiangnan. Chu Xiangnan smiled awkwardly, but in his heart, he was thinking, "Didn't you guys ask to see Yunjian? Xiangnan, is your Team Monarch's Grim Reaper coming or not?" However, she saw the boy poking his head towards the dormitory building. When he saw that it was pitch black, he turned his head and complained impatiently. The boy's name was Wu Yaotian, and he was a senior in the 3rd year of high school. He usually took care of Chu Xiangnan, but he was extremely prideful and liked to act cool in front of girls, especially beauties. "Isn't this already? It's already in front of you." Chu Xiangnan didn't have time to say anything. Wu Yaotian had already reached out his hand towards Yunjian. He looked at Yunjian with what he thought was a seductive gaze and said, "Beauty, let me carry you over the wall. Look at your precious body. Isn't it a little scary to climb over the wall?" As soon as Wu Yaotian said that, Yunjian turned her body away. "Ah, the beauty is ignoring you." The other boys jeered again. Wu Yaotian licked his lips. He turned and grabbed another girl. After getting the other girl's permission, he carried the girl and jumped over the wall. Then, he jumped back over the wall. "How is it? Am I good at climbing over the wall? It only took me a minute to bring you out. What do you think, beauty? Do you want me to carry you out?" Wu Yaotian reached out to Yunjian again. "Brother Yaotian, why are you carrying her? Look, she's ignoring you. Just let her stay in school alone. We'll go out and have fun. She can't go out on her own." Don't bother about her. A girl who was standing at the side pouted and whined to Wu Yaotian when she saw that. This girl's name was Chi Mei. She was Wu Yaotian's admirer. Beauty, if you don't come over, I'll carry another girl. This wall is 2 meters high. You won't be able to get out. Wu Yaotian threatened Yunjian. As he spoke, he waved his hand again. As soon as Wu Yaotian finished speaking, he saw Yunjian take 2 steps towards him. Wu Yaotian's eyes lit up. Just as the surrounding boys were jeering and thinking that Yunjian was going to throw herself into Wu Yaotian's arms and beg to be carried over the wall. However, they saw Yunjian run forward. Then, she jumped up and grabbed the top of the 2-meter-high wall with both hands. With a 360 degrees flip, she spun and jumped over the wall. Her movements were clean and neat as if she had done this hundreds of times. This process didn't take more than 3 seconds. Chapter 1662. If Yunjian was not a martial artist, it was impossible for her to be so nimble with her movements just now. When students from regular schools played truant, even boys would look pathetic when they were climbing over walls. However, if there were girls climbing over walls, the boys would have to look dashing when they did it. They were all students from the military school. Other than Yunjian, the rest were seniors from the 2nd and 3rd years of high school. They had been training in the military school for 2 to 3 years, so their skills were naturally different from regular people. For Year 3 seniors like Wu Yaotian, climbing over walls was a walk in the park. He was confident that he could do it even if he had to carry a girl over the wall. However, Wu Yaotian and the rest did not expect Yunjian to be able to climb over the 2-meter-high wall in just 3 seconds. Even the male students who were from the military class of the 3rd year of high school couldn't do such a thing. Xiangnan, how did she? How was she so good? Wu Yaotian was dumbfounded. He looked at Chu Xiangnan and was interrupted by Chu Xiangnan. You can't afford to offend her. Chu Xiangnan looked at Wu Yaotian meaningfully but did not reveal Yunjian's identity. He patted Wu Yaotian's shoulder and walked to the wall with a smile before climbing over it. Chu Xiangnan befriended Wu Yaotian and the rest because they treated him well. However, that did not rule out the fact that Wu Yaotian and the rest liked to show off in front of girls. It was true that most boys liked to show off their abilities in front of girls. After Chu Xiangnan climbed over the wall, the other 5 members of Team Monarch did the same. The other 5 members of Team Monarch ignored Wu Yaotian and the rest. It was obvious that Wu Yaotian and the rest were in cahoots. TSK, what's there to be proud of? So what if she climbed over the wall? I can do it too. Chi Mei was indignant that Yunjian had everyone's attention. Recalling how Yunjian had flipped over the wall just now, she went over to do the same. Chi Mei, you have to be careful. Outside the wall, Yunjian had been waiting for quite some time. Chu Ning, Chu Xiangnan, Jiang Weiwei, Lu Shiyun, Fang Xiaoran, and Hong Fan had been working hard in the military school and their skills had improved tremendously. Yunjian had taken 3 seconds to climb over the wall while the 6 of them had taken a longer time. However, Yunjian could sense that they had improved as compared to the past. You've improved, Yunjian commented with a press of her lips after Chu Ning and the others climbed out of the wall. Ha, of course. Otherwise, you wouldn't have said that we're as dark as charcoal when you saw us last time. Chu Ning went over to put her hands on Yunjian's shoulders and told Yunjian with a grin. After that, Chu Ning tilted her head and smiled at Yunjian. Speaking of which, Yunjian, this is our first time skipping school to have supper together, isn't it? I can bring you out every day if you want. Chu Xiangnan quickly whispered into Chu Ning's ear when he heard Chu Ning talking to Yunjian with a smile. Shut up. I'm talking to Yunjian. Chu Ning sprung up to knock Chu Xiangnan's head and rolled her eyes at Chu Xiangnan with a grin before talking to Yun Jian enthusiastically. It was 5 minutes later when Wu Yao Tian and the others climbed over the wall. When everyone was out, Wu Yao Tian asked Chu Xiangnan casually just so he could take a few more glances at Yun Jian, who was standing beside Chu Xiangnan. Xiangnan, is Slashing God from Team Monarch coming or not? Is she going to stand you up? As he asked, Wu Yao Tian took a few more glances at Yun Jian. Isn't she already here? Chu Xiangnan was surprised before he replied. Wu Yao Tian and the others were stunned by Chu Xiangnan's words. Wu Yao Tian snapped out of it and asked in disbelief, where is she? Why don't I see her? Her. She's Slashing God from Team Monarch. The Slashing God who won first place in this selection, our school's legend. Chu Xiangnan pointed at Yun Jian and told the incredulous Wu Yao Tian. Initially, Qi Mei was still unconvinced by Yun Jian, while Wu Yao Tian and the others only treated Yun Jian as an ordinary girl. Wu Yao Tian and the others even thought that she was a student from a military medical course. Now that they heard Chu Xiangnan's words, however, they were completely dumbfounded. Chapter 1663. What's with that expression? Yun Jian has always been our Team Monarch's killing god. Chu Xiangnan saw Wu Yao Tian and the rest's deflated expressions and added a few words to help Yun Jian gloat. Other things aside, as a member of Team Monarch, Chu Xiangnan's favorite thing to do the most was to step in when others looked down on Yun Jian. It was a great feeling. Wu Yao Tian and the rest were already stunned, but after hearing what Chu Xiangnan said, they were even more shocked. However, that was not enough as Chu Xiangnan continued to brag about Yun Jian's abilities. Don't judge Yun Jian by her skinny frame. Just look at her skinny arms and legs and you'll see that she has no ability at all. Actually, the reason why Team Monarch is able to achieve what we have today is all because of Yun Jian. You guys don't know this, but the first time we carried out a mission, it was very difficult. That mission required us to. Chu Xiangnan stood by the wall and bragged to Wu Yao Tian and the rest while pointing at Yun Jian. Wu Yao Tian and the rest were stunned by what he said. At the end, Chu Xiangnan started to exaggerate. He pointed at Yun Jian and used exaggerated words to brag about Yun Jian's abilities to Wu Yao Tian and the rest. You don't know this, but our mission was to steal an underground gang's secrets. Guess what happened in the end? By the time we got the news, Yun Jian had already killed her way into the gang alone and annihilated the entire gang. She was alone. She had single-handedly annihilated the entire gang. Back then, the higher-ups were so shocked. Ha! That expression was so wonderful. Chu Xiangnan's words became more and more exaggerated. In the end, Wu Yao Tian and the others were so shocked by Chu Xiangnan's words that their jaws dropped and formed an O shape. Especially Wu Yao Tian. Just now, Wu Yao Tian wanted to use the excuse of carrying Yun Jian over the wall to flirt with Yun Jian. Originally, Wu Yao Tian wanted to show off the skills he had learned in the military academy in front of everyone other than to flirt with Yun Jian. He felt that as a student of the Min City Military Academy, his strength was already very impressive. However, after hearing Chu Xiangnan's words, Wu Yao Tian felt that it was a joke that he wanted to show off in front of Yun Jian. She was the god of slaughter. It was the killing god who had won first place in the qualifiers not long ago. Those who participated in the selection were the best special forces soldiers in the country. Yun Jian would be facing the best special forces soldiers in the country. Those people were mythical existences. What about Yun Jian? She won first place. Not to mention Yun Jian's battle record of annihilating an entire gang alone. No matter which one it was, in front of Wu Yao Tian and the others, they were all out of reach. One could imagine how ugly Wu Yao Tian's expression was at that moment. As for Chi Mei, who had said a few bad things about Yun Jian, her expression wasn't any better. Ha ha ha. So she's the killing god, the legendary killing god. When Wu Yao Tian and the others' expressions darkened, one of the guys in their group stood up and said straightforwardly. This guy had a candid personality and his words were forceful. Soon, the atmosphere at the scene was heated up again. It's not early anymore. Let's go eat supper and hurry back to school. At this moment, Lu Shiyun, who had been silent all this while, spoke up. As soon as Lu Shiyun finished speaking, everyone agreed, and the group quickly walked to the supper stall. Wu Yao Tian and Chi Mei were the only ones who still remembered the unhappiness from before. Chi Mei, in particular, felt an inexplicable rage burning in her eyes as she watched Yun Jian move forward. Chapter 1664. There was a food street near the military academy. The food street here was very lively. The people here had a rich nightlife, so there were many people who came to the food street for supper at night. The food street here was filled with food stalls. If one wanted to walk from the beginning to the end, it would take more than 10 minutes. Usually, the students who played truant from the military academy would come to this food street for supper. Yun Jian and the others came here as well. What supper do you all want to eat? The boy who stood up to deal with the awkward atmosphere was called Duanmu. Like his name, Duanmu was a very modest and elegant boy. As soon as everyone arrived, Duanmu swept his gaze over everyone and asked. Let's go eat barbecue skewers. Chu Ning suddenly suggested. The entire street was filled with all kinds of snacks. There were all kinds of snacks and everything one could think of. For example, noodles, rice noodles, and of course, barbecue. Chu Ning's suggestion immediately received the silent approval of everyone present. Even Chi Mei, who had a problem with Yun Jian, did not say anything. Barbecue was the favorite of young people. Most young people did not know that barbecue could not be eaten too much, or that barbecue was unhealthy. Especially in this era, health awareness was not so strong. Therefore, many young people would go eat barbecue whenever they had the chance. Come, I'll lead the way. I know a barbecue place that's especially good. It's the most popular shop here. Duanmu quickly recommended himself. As they spoke, the group walked towards the shop recommended by Duanmu. The military academy was silent at this moment, especially the dormitory building. It was so quiet that only the breathing of the students could be heard. However, this food street was completely different from the military academy. The food street was filled with neon lights. There was a large and bright light bulb hanging above every shop. There were tables and chairs for hawkers scattered in front of the shop. Although the tables and chairs were old and the food street did not look clean, there was a unique flavor to it. There were many tables and chairs in front of the barbecue shop recommended by Duanmu. As soon as they walked in, Duanmu waved at the shop owner and said, "Brother Dong, give us 50 mutton skewers, 30 skewers of roasted gluten, and 10 skewers of roasted leeks. Give us more as you see fit." Obviously, it was not Duanmu's first time here. The owner of this shop was quite young. Judging from his figure, he was about 28 or 29 years old. Hearing Duanmu's words, the boss who was called Brother Dong replied, "Okay. I'll roast it for you first. It'll be ready soon." "Thank you, Dong Ji." Duanmu hurriedly thanked him. However, the group quickly sat down. Because there were many people, 4 small tables were put together and they sat around them. Yun Jian followed the crowd and sat down beside Chu Ning. After Wu Yao Tian found out about Yun Jian's identity, although he felt quite awkward, Yun Jian was still the idol of the entire Min City Military Academy. Soon, the unhappiness from before was thrown to the back of their minds. Wu Yaotian and the others acted as if they were facing their idol and asked Yun Jian one question after another. Wu Yaotian also held back his desire to tease Yun Jian. At this moment, he was talking to Yun Jian purely as if he was talking to his idol. He had long abandoned his improper thoughts about Yun Jian. Not long after Yun Jian took her seat, a surprised exclamation sounded. It was from a girl who had just walked in from the entrance of the barbecue shop. "It's you. You're the girl who almost bumped into me at the stairs just now." As soon as the girl saw Yun Jian, she pointed at Yun Jian and exclaimed. Everyone in Yun Jian's group immediately turned their gazes over. This girl was the one who almost bumped into Yun Jian on the second floor of Yun Jian's dormitory building. There were a few other girls standing beside the girl. After the girl who almost bumped into Yun Jian spoke up, they pointed at Yun Jian and exclaimed, "That's right." Chapter 1665. The girls standing next to the girl who bumped into Yun Jian were obviously the ones who saw Yun Jian unlock the door with the wire. Therefore, the moment they saw Yun Jian, they exclaimed in shock. Those who were with Yun Jian were surprised when they heard what the girls who had just joined the school said. "You know how to pry open the door without a lock?" Duanmu asked Yun Jian in surprise. Everyone looked at Yun Jian in shock. Yun Jian was Team Monarch slashing God, which was enough to shock everyone present. However, who would have thought that Yun Jian knew how to pry open the door? She opened the door to our female dormitory without using a key. She really gave us a fright. The girls were obviously still in shock from seeing Yun Jian unlock the door. The crowd was in an uproar, shocked by Yun Jian's ability. However, compared to that, the girl who almost bumped into Yun Jian at the staircase but was dodged by Yun Jian and hit her head hard was still holding a grudge. "Bro, it's this girl who made me get a big bump on my head. You have to avenge me." The girl who almost bumped into Yun Jian just now tugged at the hand of the man beside her like a spoiled child and pointed at Yun Jian as she spoke. The girl's name was Yang Lin. She was tall, not ugly, and had a great body. Yang Lin was a typical gangster girl while the man standing next to her was a gangster. Yang Lin liked to hang out with gangsters because she felt that she had a high status in school. Sometimes, she even felt that she could hold her head up high in school with the gangsters' protection. The man standing next to Yang Lin was not her biological brother. He looked up at Yun Jian and told her in a roguish tone, "Brother Yang, you're the one who's being bullied. Were you the one who bullied my sister?" The moment he saw Yun Jian's face, the man let go of Yang Lin's hand and walked toward Yun Jian. "What do you want?" Duanmu asked the man coldly. "She bullied my sister. Of course, we have to pay her back." The man cackled and sized up Yun Jian. Nothing good would come out of being harassed by gangsters like this. Yang Lin crossed her arms and looked at Yun Jian. She could almost imagine Yun Jian begging for mercy. Seeing that Yun Jian was ignoring him, the man took 2 steps toward Yun Jian. Chi Mei, who was hiding in the dark, smirked. It seemed that Yun Jian would be in trouble without her doing anything. Just when Yang Lin and Chi Mei saw the man take 2 more steps toward Yun Jian's eyes flashed. With a glint in her eyes, she stood up abruptly from her seat and hollered, "Get down, all of you." Then, she swept her leg at the man and kicked him in the knee, making him kneel on the ground. The people around them didn't know why Yun Jian suddenly shouted for them to get down, but they all obeyed. "What's wrong with you?" The people around them who trusted Yun Jian all got down. Yang Lin asked after Yun Jian spoke. "That's..." Before she could finish her sentence, Chi Mei's heart almost jumped out of her chest at the scene in front of her. In the next second, Yun Jian kicked a stool and sent it flying in the air. When the stool was kicked to its highest point in the air, a few gunshots rang out in the distance. Gunshots rang out and bullets flew toward them. Yunjian's kick sent the stool flying toward the bullets that were fired out of the blue right in front of everyone's eyes. Several bullets aimed at Yunjian were intercepted by Yunjian's stool. This scene frightened everyone present to the point that their faces turned pale. Especially Yang Lin and Qi Mei, who didn't trust Yunjian. This scene completely overturned everyone's understanding. A gun. She actually has a gun. But before everyone could be surprised by Yunjian's terrifying skills, Yunjian bent down and picked up 2 bullet shells from the ground. She narrowed her eyes and looked at a certain spot. She, who had been silent all this time, now played with the 2 bullets skillfully in front of everyone. Then, she curled her lips into a strange smile. Chapter 1666. Yunjian fiddled with the 2 shiny bullet shells in her palm. She narrowed her beautiful eyes and stared at a dark corner of the food street. The food street was filled with snacks. The food street here was a straight street. If one were to cross left and right, they could pass through to a dark place or a street corner where there was no one. The 2 gunshots just now had only made 2 pft sounds. There was no doubt that the pistols were equipped with silencers. The sound of bullets fired from silenced pistols was so soft that no one on the busy food street noticed when the 2 bullets flew over. If Yang Lin, Qi Mei, Wu Yaotian, and the others hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they wouldn't have noticed the bullets flying over. Of course, Yunjian, who was skilled with guns and ammunition, could easily smell the gunpowder even in this noisy food street. It was impossible for anyone who didn't come out of the assassin training camp to practice such sensitivity. Even if they came out of the assassin organization, they wouldn't have Yunjian's ability. Yang Lin and Qi Mei screamed when they saw this. Ah! Gun! 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 There's a gun! After Yunjian said this to the people in the dark, Yang Lin and Qi Mei finally reacted. Someone had fired a gun just now. There's a gun. There's a gun here. Yang Lin and Qi Mei were just cursing Yunjian for suddenly shouting, "Get down." Both of them had a problem with Yunjian. Just now, they had been criticizing Yunjian one after another. They both thought they had coordinated well. What else could Yunjian say now? But they never imagined that someone would shoot them with a gun. A gun. It was a real gun. Both Yang Lin and Qi Mei were military medical students at the Min Military Academy. They had only heard the boys boasting about how they handled knives and guns and how they fought and killed. But now, such a thing was happening right in front of him. Lin Yang and Qi Mei were so arrogant just now. Now that they realized the danger, they squatted down with their hands over their heads, screamed, and found the nearest table. Then, they crawled under the table. Hearing Yang Lin's and Qi Mei's screams, the surrounding people who were eating supper were so scared that they quickly found a place to hide. Places with a lot of people were most afraid of rumors. When you were in a crowded place, if you yelled, "Someone is shooting," most of the people around you would definitely believe it. Because of this, the crowd became restless. Wu Yaotian and the others were so scared that they all found a place to hide and looked over. Chu Ning and the others also hid obediently and did not move. They were afraid of being a burden to Yunjian. Yunjian, who was standing in the same spot, smiled and walked out of the barbecue restaurant. She crossed her arms and looked at the darkness for a while. Then, a woman walked out. This woman was very thin and had a good figure, but her breasts were very small. She looked more like a Westerner. She held a Browning M1911 pistol in her hand and walked out from the dark seductively. This woman's code name was Ruin, and she was a killer known as the sharpshooter of the blood doll. Rumor had it that she once killed 3 birds with one shot. Her strength was amazing. Who is this? Wu Yaotian saw Ruo Yin and the gun in her hand. He was so scared that his face changed and he turned to ask Yunjian. Although the boys in the military academy liked to brag about themselves, when it came to critical moments, they were naturally afraid if they were not strong enough. Yunjian ignored Wu Yaotian. She narrowed her eyes and looked at Ruo Yin, who walked out from the dark. She did not look scared like the others. On the contrary, she looked at Ruo Yin casually and looked up at her. There was a moment of silence. The people in the dark saw Yunjian suddenly raise her hand and throw the 2 bullets in her hand to Ruo Yin. Ruo Yin's eyes flashed and she caught them. I can't accept this greeting gift, but since you're here, don't even think about leaving. Yunjian's red lips curved slightly as she said these words calmly. The people hiding in the dark thought that Yunjian was too arrogant. But then, they saw a sharp glint in Yunjian's eyes. Chapter 1667. Ruo Yin was standing not far away with the Browning pistol in her hand. Yunjian's lips curled slightly. She pursed her lips and stared at Ruo Yin with her sharp eyes. Just as everyone was shocked by Yunjian's arrogant words, Yunjian's next move made everyone's expression change. Everyone was still thinking that the woman called Ruo Yin was holding a pistol. And Yunjian. She dared to speak to Ruo Yin in such a tone. Did she think that she could beat Ruo Yin just because she kicked out a stool to block Ruo Yin's 2 shots? Yunjian, be careful. Although Chu Xiangnan and the rest knew about Yunjian's skills, they still shouted at Yunjian worriedly. Why did she have to drag us down if she wants to die? Didn't she see the gun in that woman's hand? What if that gun hurts us? Why is she so selfish? Can't she just die and not drag us down with her? Chi Mei was so scared that she hid under the table and trembled. As she trembled, she did not forget to curse Yunjian while sobbing. It's all Yunjian's fault. It's all Yunjian's fault. So what if Yunjian is Team Monarch/God? That woman has a gun. Can she win against that woman? Not only will she not win against that woman, but she'll also get everyone killed. However, it was also at this moment that what happened next completely overturned everyone's understanding. This scene was unforgettable for everyone present. In the next breath, Yunjian took 2 large strides to where Ruo Yin was. Ruo Yin's eyes sharpened and she was about to raise the Browning pistol in her hand. Before she could raise the pistol, Yunjian took 2 steps and jumped in front of Ruo Yin. This scene caused an uproar among the people who were hiding in every corner. Yunjian's skills were amazing. However, it was not over yet. While Ruo Yin was still raising her Browning pistol, Yunjian had already arrived in front of Ruo Yin in a few flashes. Then, a second before Ruo Yin raised her gun and aimed, Yunjian's hands nimbly wrapped around Ruo Yin's hands like a snake. At the same time, she wrapped around Ruo Yin's left hand that was holding the gun and slammed her left wrist hard. Ruo Yin's hand went limp from the impact. The left hand that was holding the gun went limp, and the Browning pistol slipped to the ground. Yunjian caught the Browning pistol without even looking at it when she attacked Ruo Yin's hand that was holding the gun. The other hand that was wrapped around Ruo Yin's right hand grabbed onto her right hand at the speed of light. With a vicious pull, it rapidly struck the bones of Ruo Yin's right arm. Ruo Yin wanted to fight back, but Yunjian had already hit her in every part of her arm, so she didn't have any strength. She widened her eyes in shock and wanted to kick Yunjian with her long legs. At this time, Yunjian had already circled behind Ruo Yin with the gun. She used her knee to hit Ruo Yin's knee, causing Ruo Yin to kneel on the ground. The entire process took no more than 3 seconds. After 3 seconds, Yunjian had already snatched the pistol from Ruo Yin's hand. Ruo Yin's eyes widened. She was not weak, but she did not even have time to react before Yunjian kicked her to the ground. She even took the pistol. After being forced to the ground, Ruo Yin was about to struggle when she suddenly heard the sound of a gun bolt being pulled. Yun Jian had taken the Browning pistol from Ruo Yin's hand and pressed it against the back of Ruo Yin's head. When the crowd in the distance saw this scene, they could not help but be dumbfounded. Yun Jian had actually taken the pistol from this woman's hand. And from this woman's skills, it could be seen that she was definitely not weak. Ruo Yin, who was known as a sharpshooter by Blood Doll. This Ruo Yin was probably a member of the assassin organization. And Yun Jian had just snatched the pistol from Ruo Yin's hand. Oh my god. The speed at which she snatched the pistol was faster than the speed at which she fired it. This little girl is too scary. An older uncle next to them looked at Yun Jian in shock and let out a cry of shock. Yang Lin, Qi Mei, and the rest were scared beyond recognition. They saw Yun Jian pressing the gun against the back of Ruo Yin's head and smiling coldly at her expressionlessly. Chapter 1668. Yun Jian's words were like sharp silver needles, piercing Ruo Yin's heart one by one. These words were simply mocking Ruo Yin's incompetence as a sharpshooter. Ruo Yin was famous as a sharpshooter, but she couldn't even protect her most commonly used pistol. Ruo Yin was unwilling, but she had no choice. Yun Jian's strength was too strong, so strong that even if she was unwilling, she had no choice but to accept it. Ha! As expected of an SS, losing to you, I'm convinced. Ruo Yin said. She didn't show any fear of Yun Jian pointing a gun at the back of her head. After all, she was an assassin who was used to all kinds of situations. Her ability to endure was naturally not something an ordinary person could compare to. Seeing that Yun Jian was suppressing Ruo Yin, Yang Lin and Qi Mei, who were cowardly crawling under the table, quickly crawled out from under the table. Humph! Who told you to shoot at us just now? Yun Jian, hurry up and kill her. She almost killed us just now. I'm so angry. Qi Mei was just blaming Yun Jian for provoking Ruo Yin, who had a pistol in her hand. She was asking why Yun Jian didn't die by herself and insisted on letting everyone take the risk with her. But now, Yun Jian had snatched the pistol from Ruo Yin's hand and even pointed it at the back of Ruo Yin's head. Even though Qi Mei was unhappy with Yun Jian before, she didn't dare to target Yun Jian now. Qi Mei even had thoughts of pleasing Yun Jian. As for Wu Yaotian, who wanted to take liberties with Yun Jian, or the very upright Duanmu, or the man Yang Lin called brother, everyone was looking at Yun Jian with shocked and frightened eyes. At this moment, no one dared to stand out and say a word. Except for Qi Mei. Qi Mei had just criticized Yun Jian with harsh words, but now that she saw Yun Jian's terrifying strength, she went from being unhappy with Yun Jian to now standing up to please Yun Jian. Everyone present was watching Qi Mei's every word and action. Even those standing beside Qi Mei rolled their eyes at her. Quick, shoot her. Let her know how powerful we are. Humph. She actually wanted to kill us. He really dared to do that. Yun Jian, hurry up and shoot her. Anyway, you're a popular person in our military academy. Even if you really kill someone, the officers will protect you. Qi Mei was indeed a talent. Seeing that Yun Jian had subdued Ruo Yin, Qi Mei, who had previously treated Yun Jian as her mortal enemy, immediately treated Yun Jian as one of her own. She even incited Yun Jian to kill Ruo Yin. Those who didn't know better would think that Yun Jian was Qi Mei's subordinate. Seeing that Yun Jian had pressed the muzzle of the pistol to the back of Ruo Yin's head, Qi Mei's incessant words continued to spread. As she spoke, she walked towards Yun Jian. She already treated us like that just now, and you're still not going to kill her. Weren't you very powerful just now? And didn't you once annihilate an entire gang by yourself? Why don't you dare now? Chi Mei's voice continued to ring out. The crowd watching this scene from afar was deeply disgusted by Chi Mei's actions. However, just as Chi Mei was about to reach Yun Jian suddenly turned around and let go of the suppressed Ruoyin. She turned around and kicked the completely unprepared Chi Mei. Chi Mei still treated Yun Jian as one of her own, so she was full of confidence that Yun Jian wouldn't do anything to her. But at this moment, Yun Jian suddenly kicked Chi Mei's abdomen in the air. She kicked Chi Mei far away on the spot, then held the pistol and fired a few shots at Chi Mei, who was thrown to the ground. Bang 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 bang. 5 shots. Yun Jian's marksmanship was so accurate that it was frightening. These 5 shots hit Chi Mei's forehead, her left arm grazed the side, her left leg grazed the side, her right arm grazed the side, and her right leg grazed the side of her head. Her marksmanship was exquisite, and the shots just grazed Chi Mei's 5 sides and shot into the cement floor. 5 shots. If any of them were slightly off, Chi Mei would definitely be injured. This scene happened so quickly that Chi Mei's face turned pale with fright. The surrounding crowd was also shocked by Yun Jian's shots, and their hairs stood on end. They saw that Yun Jian had already pointed the muzzle at Chi Mei's temple. In front of everyone present, she spoke coldly to Chi Mei. Chapter 1669. Yun Jian let go of Ruoyin and turned around to kick Chi Mei, pointing the gun at her. This action caused everyone present to be astonished. Oh my God! Some people in the crowd covered their eyes as if they could imagine Yun Jian shooting Chi Mei's head. But at this moment, no one pitied Chi Mei. Not only did Chi Mei's actions make Yun Jian unable to take it, even the people who were standing far away were disgusted. What Chi Mei had done just now made everyone present extremely disgusted. Some people were even annoyed with Chi Mei and wanted Yun Jian to shoot Chi Mei to death. This girl has a big mouth. I can't stand her. A middle-aged man who was standing far away spat on the ground after being angered by Chi Mei's attitude. In the eyes of everyone present, Yun Jian's action was purely to vent her anger. Cough cough. I don't mean to say this, but this girl is more than a little annoying. Even Ruoyin, who was hostile towards Yun Jian, did not leave after being released by Yun Jian. She walked to Yun Jian's side, touched her chin and complained. Ruoyin was not afraid that Yun Jian would catch her again. She walked to Yun Jian's side and commented. Yun Jian pointed the gun at Chi Mei's head and turned to look at Ruoyin. Why aren't you leaving? Do you want me to kill you? I'm not asking for it. Ruoyin stood beside Yun Jian, shaking her slender and long legs as she looked at Chi Mei, who was kicked out by Yun Jian. Chi Mei was so scared that her face turned pale. She got up from the ground almost immediately and kowtowed to Yun Jian, begging for mercy. No. Don't kill me. I was wrong. Put the gun away. I won't dare to do it again. Chi Mei was a person who paid a lot of attention to her appearance. She could even show off her most beautiful appearance in front of the boys. She only ate 1 meal a day just to lose weight and shape her perfect figure to present in front of the boys. Of course, all of this was under the premise that their lives were guaranteed. At this moment, even his life was not guaranteed. What was the point of caring about his appearance and image? Therefore, Chi Mei directly knelt down and kowtowed to Yun Jian. Her whole body trembled like a spring. Puff! Such guts! Weren't you very powerful just now? Ruoyin saw Chi Mei kneel down in front of Yun Jian. Her body was trembling like a spring, as if she had been greatly frightened. She stood aside and couldn't help but sneer. Ruoyin was in no hurry to leave. Yun Jian's red arc slightly raised. She pulled the bolt of the pistol. In the midst of Chi Mei's begging and kowtowing, Yun Jian pursed her lips. The next second, she said with an indifferent expression, "You can die now." As soon as she finished speaking, a bang sound rang out. The moment Chi Mei heard the gunshot, she seemed to have been seriously frightened. She fell straight to the ground and fainted completely. Everyone standing in the distance was frightened by Yun Jian. She really shot. Was she really going to kill Chi Mei? But before anyone could react, they saw Yun Jian suddenly point the gun at the dark place where Ruoyin had just come out from. With a bang sound, Yun Jian's shot directly into the dark place. What was Yun Jian doing? Everyone present widened their eyes in shock. After the shot was shot into the dark place, a slender man of about 182 meters in height, who looked handsome just by looking at his figure, easily dodged Yun Jian's shot and exposed himself to everyone present. The man was about 23 years old. He wore a hoodie with a collar on his head, but it couldn't stop his handsome face from appearing and disappearing in the dark. When she saw the man, Yun Jian narrowed her eyes and smiled contemptuously. Chapter 1670. Ruoyin's expression changed when she saw that Yun Jian had fired a shot and forced the handsome young man out of the shadows. She had actually discovered their leader hiding in the shadows. Ruoyin's face turned pale with fright. She had originally thought that with her abilities, she would be able to take 1 or 2 blows from Yun Jian. However, she had never expected that Yun Jian would be able to subdue her in 1 blow. This was not a big deal. After all, Yun Jian's identity was not to be underestimated. However, Ruoyin had never expected that Yun Jian had already discovered their leader hiding in the shadows. Yun Jian had not said anything, but that did not mean that she had not discovered their leader's existence. Ruoyin was well aware of their leader's abilities. However, Yun Jian had actually seen through everything with 1 glance. Normal people might not have been able to see through Yun Jian's shot, but Ruoyin, who is also an assassin, could see through it with 1 glance. Yun Jian's shot had just happened to be aimed at the Blood Doll leader's hiding spot. Her speed, direction, and distance were all very accurate. If the leader did not walk out in front of everyone, he would have been hit by Yun Jian's shot. Yun Jian had controlled the speed of the shot just now perfectly. If the Blood Doll leader did not walk out, he would have been hit by that shot. Therefore, Yun Jian's shot had successfully forced the Blood Doll leader who was hiding in the dark to come out. Leader. Ruoyin suppressed the shock in her heart. She turned her head to the side to look at her Lord Chief and bowed to her. The Blood Doll leader's name was Dilin. At this moment, Dilin was dressed in black from head to toe. The hat behind his collar was also black. In this dark night, under the illumination of the surrounding neon lights, Dilin's appearance was faintly discernible. This was a very young but pale face. He was handsome and spirited, but at this moment, his face was so pale that it made people feel a little scared. Dilin didn't show any signs of panic after being discovered by Yun Jian. He waved his hand at Yun Jian, who was bowing to him, and stood in front of Yun Jian. Dilin was about 182 meters tall, so Yun Jian looked very short when she stood in front of Dilin. But in terms of aura, Yun Jian was many times stronger than him. Another person had arrived. Standing in the distance, Wu Yaotian, Yang Lin, and the others were dumbfounded beyond words. Everyone stared blankly at the scene before them. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes at Dilin. "Tell me why you're here." Yun Jian narrowed her eyes and asked calmly. "I'm here to find my woman," Dilin said to Yun Jian. He was wearing a black hoodie, so he looked like an emissary in the darkness. "Are you talking about Lang Mei who was captured by me last time?" Yun Jian played with the gun in her hand and looked at Dilin playfully. Dilin didn't reply to this question. Ruoyin, who was standing at the side, couldn't help but want to complain, but she held it in. Lang Mei was the #1 expert of blood doll. She was adopted by the leader's father when she was young and could be considered as the leader's childhood friend. Later on, the leader's father passed away and the leader inherited blood doll. He used the fastest speed to develop blood doll into the largest organization in Southeast Asia. Lang Mei had always been by the leader's side. Lang Mei became the leader's woman when she was 16. She was the leader's first and last woman. But the leader's attitude towards Lang Mei was like treating a tool to warm his bed. Lang Mei had always felt that she was the leader's tool and didn't dare to have any improper thoughts. In Blood Doll, who didn't know that Lang Mei was the leader's lover? Even Lang Mei herself thought that she was the leader's mistress. Ruoyin couldn't help but complain. She had long known that the leader treated Lang Mei differently. Not long ago, Lang Mei was captured by Yun Jian. Being captured by SS, Lang Mei could be killed at any time. Their leader, Di Lin, hadn't slept for a few days. This time, he even rushed here to ask Yun Jian for Lang Mei. But when it came to Lang Mei, their leader wouldn't even mention the word love. Chapter 1671. No one could understand Ruoyin's worries. She had joined the Blood Doll organization later on. She had been in the Blood Doll organization when it was still a small organization. Until Di Lin's father passed away this year, Di Lin became the new leader of the organization. In less than half a year, the Blood Doll went from a small organization in Southeast Asia to wiping out all the organizations in Southeast Asia and becoming the #1 assassin organization in Southeast Asia. It could be said that Ruoyin witnessed the development of Di Lin and Lang Mei's relationship with her own eyes. Even a bystander like her was puzzled. Her leader liked Lang Mei but didn't say anything. It felt like the eunuch was more worried than the emperor. Even a eunuch like her was anxious to find a way to matchmake her leader and Lang Mei. It was so heart-wrenching. Yun Jian played with the gun in her hand and looked at Di Lin with a frivolous gaze, waiting for his reply. Yes, Di Lin said to Yun Jian expressionlessly. The woman he was looking for was Lang Mei, who was captured by Yun Jian last time. Seeing that the atmosphere had calmed down, Wu Yaotian, Duan Mu, Brother Dong, and Yang Lin, who was holding a grudge against Yun Jian at the school dormitory, as well as the hooligan who called him brother, walked out of their hiding place. Even so, they didn't dare to come close. Who knew if the gun in Yun Jian's hand would go off accidentally? That was a gun. A real gun. If it went off accidentally, someone would die. Even so, everyone was confused by Yun Jian, Di Lin, and Ruoyin's words. What was the Blood Doll organization? And Yun Jian captured someone called Lang Mei. What was going on? If they hadn't seen Yun Jian's gun go off with their own eyes and confirmed that it was a real gun, they would have thought that Di Lin and Ruoyin were actors hired by Yun Jian. His purpose was to flaunt his groundless abilities in front of everyone. At this moment, Yun Jian, who was standing in the middle of the food street and looking at Di Lin with frivolous eyes, suddenly smiled. She raised her beautiful eyes and stared at God's descent's eyes. After a moment of silence, she opened her mouth and said, "I'm sorry. I'm a person who never makes a losing deal. You can take him back, but I have a condition." Upon hearing that Yun Jian had a condition, everyone standing in the distance pricked up their ears to listen. "Speak," Di Lin said with a dark face. Yun Jian's smirk calmed down at once. Looking at Di Lin coldly, she recollected her playful expression and spoke in a chilling voice that rang in everyone's ears. "The Blood Doll belongs to me. You can take the person away." What she wanted was the entire Blood Doll organization. Even though the crowd did not know what the Blood Doll was, they could feel that it was not something ordinary. After hearing Yun Jian's words, everyone present gasped. They had to admit that Yun Jian was very arrogant. What she wanted was not money or status. She wanted the entire blood doll organization. You. Hearing this, Ruin's emotions tensed up. Unable to restrain herself, she almost attacked. I can give her to you, but before I give you the blood doll, I want to see her in perfect condition. Dilin waved his hand at Ruin and looked sharply at Yunjian. When Dilin said that, even Yunjian was slightly shocked. The blood doll was not a small organization. In the past, it might have been a small organization in Southeast Asia, but now, it was the top organization in Southeast Asia. How could he give it up so easily? Deal. Even though she was doubtful, Yunjian finished her sentence without changing her expression. What she wanted was not just the blood doll organization. She wanted everyone in the organization. Chapter 1672. I'll see you in Longmen City this Saturday. I'll bring you to her. Of course, you'll have to show your sincerity first, like, who's the mastermind behind the blood doll organization's mad pursuit of me? Yunjian narrowed her eyes and looked at Dilin, reverting to her usual demeanor. Unbeknownst to her, a smirk crept up the corners of her lips again. Yunjian crossed her arms and looked at Dilin lazily, waiting for his reply. The crowd from afar had no idea what Yunjian and her friends were talking about due to the confusion they were having. What was the mastermind behind the blood doll organization's mad pursuit of her? Was the blood doll an assassin organization that had been hunting Yunjian recently? Yunjian was neither a leader nor an internationally renowned figure. Why would they want to hunt her down? No matter how many questions the crowd had, they dared not ask them now. What a joke. The gun in Yunjian's hand was not just sitting there without a use. The crowd was only slightly puzzled when they heard what Yunjian and her companion said. In spite of it, Ruoyin and Dilin, who had always been calm, looked grim when they heard what Yunjian said. Yunjian was indeed an SS. She actually knew that the blood doll was hunting her down. The blood doll organization had interrupted the Kosha mercenaries' missions many times recently. It was not that the blood doll leader was stupid enough to do so. There was someone behind the blood doll. Dilin's skin was pale. He was wearing a black hoodie, and his handsome face was covered by the black hoodie. Dilin's expression darkened when he heard what Yunjian said, but it was hard to discern the change in his expression due to his pale complexion. Those who were more attentive would be able to tell that Dilin was truly surprised by what Yunjian said. As long as she's unharmed, these aren't secrets, said Dilin. After that, he turned and waved at Ruoyin before leaving to the dark corner of the food street. Did he mean that as long as Leng Mei was fine, everything would be fine? Right before Dilin and Ruoyin were about to disappear from her sight, Yunjian added to their backs, You're right, you're right. Leng Mei is indeed in Longmen City. If you're smart, don't take the risk to rescue her. Otherwise, her head will roll any time. Yunjian's words were a threat, but it was also the truth. Yunjian was a woman of her word. He had never failed to get what he wanted. It was the same for the blood doll. Dilin and Ruoyin paused in the darkness when they heard Yunjian, and then their figures flashed and vanished swiftly. Yunjian, who were those two people just now? Why did they want to kill you? Chu Ning and the others had been standing behind Yunjian since the beginning. Chu Ning blinked at Yunjian and asked. Yunjian's pretty eyes blinked at Chu Ning's question, her red lips curling. Just as everyone thought that Yunjian was going to defend herself, Yunjian relaxed and grinned at Chu Ning. Take a guess. After that, Yunjian walked around Chu Ning and the others to return to the table where they had barbecued skewers and sat on the stool. The people around them stood at the side. Due to what happened just now, no one dared to sit at the table recklessly. They were afraid that bullets would shoot out from the dark like just now. Yunjian sat at the table as if nothing had happened. She picked up a mutton skewer on the table and gobbled it down, commenting softly, "Smells good." Looking at Yun Jian's reaction and recalling Yun Jian's ferocious skills just now, the people around them could not help gulping. If it were not for the mess around them, everyone would have thought that what happened just now was just a farce. Chapter 1673. Yun Jian ate with relish. It was not until 30 minutes after Dilin and Ruoyin left that the food street returned to its initial calm. Along the way, the police came to investigate the situation. But after finding out that no one was injured, they called the witnesses to register and did not make things difficult for Yun Jian. Qi Mei was so frightened by Yun Jian's shot that she fainted. Qi Mei thought that Yun Jian's shot was aimed at her head, so she fainted. In the end, it was Wu Yaotian and the rest who reluctantly carried Qi Mei back to school. She only woke up when they arrived. Even though this incident had caused quite a stir locally, it was fortunate that it did not alert the school. Hence, no one knew that Yun Jian and the rest had played truant at night. Yun Jian returned to the dormitory and fell asleep immediately. The next morning, Yun Jian woke up early in the morning. Even though she slept late last night, Yun Jian did not sleep much. As usual, she woke up earlier than the rest of the students and went to the field for a few rounds of morning exercise. By the time she reached the classroom, most of the students had already started their morning reading. The students of Min City Military Academy usually woke up at 5:30 am and started with half an hour of morning reading, followed by half an hour of morning exercise. At 6:30 am, they would finish their morning exercise and head to the canteen for breakfast. Half an hour of morning exercise every morning was already very tiring. Hence, when it came to breakfast, the students in the school would have a huge appetite. Plus, there was a lot of training in the military academy. Hence, both boys and girls had bigger appetites than students from other schools. If they could train, of course they could eat. Even if the students of the military academy had bigger appetites than students from other schools, they would still be slimmer and more muscular than students from other schools. At this moment, Yun Jian, Lin Wan and Mu Ying were eating porridge in the canteen. Yun Jian ordered a bowl of porridge, 3 pumpkin pies, a bun and an egg. Compared to the average girl, Yun Jian's appetite was not small. At most, it was shocking. But in the military academy, this kind of appetite was not small at all. Yun Jian, yesterday you... At the mention of Yun Jian and the others playing truant yesterday, Lin Wan paused for a moment. She looked around cautiously, then moved her head closer to Yun Jian. Lin Wan whispered in a voice that only Yun Jian, Mu Ying, and herself could hear. "Was it fun to play truant yesterday to have supper?" Looking at Lin Wan's curious look, Yun Jian's red arc curved. She didn't answer directly, but pursed her lips and said, "You'll know when we go together next time." "I'm a good baby." Lin Wan shook her hands. She shook her head and moved her head away from Yun Jian. At this moment, a gentle female voice sounded from the school's broadcast system. The radio was set up in every corner of the school, so even if people were sitting in the cafeteria, they could still hear the radio. And at this moment, the gentle female voice on the radio spread to almost every corner of the cafeteria. "Congratulations to student Yun Jian of our school's grade 1-2, for winning the Strongest Female Student Award personally inscribed by Principal Ma. Student Yun Jian is being praised by the entire school. Next, student Yun Jian who heard the broadcast, please come to the Academic Affairs Office to receive your award." As soon as the gentle female voice on the radio finished speaking, Yun Jian's mouth twitched. Not only Yun Jian, but all the students who heard the broadcast were dumbfounded. Strongest Female Student Award. What the hell was this? When did this award become available? How come it had never happened before? Chapter 1674. Award. Strongest female student. Pft. It was personally inscribed by Principal Ma. Yun Jian, was it because your performance at the selection round was too amazing and you won first place? That's why Principal Ma gave you such an award. And it was announced to the entire school. Lin Wan covered her mouth. Principal Ma's funny behavior made her laugh. Awarding certificates was something that happened in every school. However, the usual awards were nothing more than exemplary student, activist, good child, and so on. Higher up would be first prize, second prize, and third prize. At the very least, it would be first prize, second prize, and so on. But what about Yun Jian? On the other hand, Principal Ma had personally written a certificate for her as the strongest female student. The problem was that this award had never been given out since the establishment of Min City Military School. In other words, what Yun Jian received was the highest honor. Therefore, when the announcement was broadcasted, all the students around them were discussing who Yun Jian was, who was crowned as the strongest female student award or title. Weren't the students of grade 1, 2, high school freshmen? A freshman in grade 1 actually received Principal Ma's favor. The female voice in the broadcast repeated several times. Yun Jian wasn't in a hurry. She only parted ways with Lin Wan and Muing after she finished her breakfast. Yun Jian walked unhurriedly to the school's administration office. Early morning was the most refreshing time of the day. At this time, all the teachers had gone to eat breakfast, so only a few students were left in the administration office. Yun Jian had just arrived at the entrance of the administration office when the female student standing inside stopped Yun Jian. The teachers have all gone to the cafeteria to eat. If you have anything to say to the teachers, come back later. This female student was the most trusted student of one of the teachers in the administration office. The teachers in the school would usually have one of their most trusted students. This female student was the most trusted student of one of the teachers in the administration office. Usually, when the teacher needed to organize information, the female student would be called to the office to help. Because she was deeply doted on by the teacher, the female student was especially arrogant in front of other students. There were always a few students in the school who were as obedient as lapdogs in front of the teachers. They would take on any chores or dirty work and were deeply trusted by the teachers. However, they were unusually arrogant in front of other students. The female student who stopped Yun Jian was such a person. Now that there were no teachers in the administration office, the female student felt that she was the one in charge of the administration office. Therefore, before Yun Jian could enter the administration office, she was stopped by the female student and ordered Yun Jian to come back later. I'm Yun Jian from year 1, 2. I heard the announcement and came to collect my certificate. Yun Jian did not waste time with the girl and went straight to the point. You're Yun Jian from grade 1, 2. After the female student heard Yun Jian's words, she sized up Yun Jian from head to toe. This female student was a senior in grade 3, so after hearing Yun Jian's words, she looked at Yun Jian with a questioning gaze. A grade 1 student could actually gain the favor of Principal Ma. If this wasn't getting in through the back door, then what was it? The female student looked at Yun Jian with disdain. Originally, she only wanted Yun Jian to come back later to find the teachers in the administration office. Now that she heard that Yun Jian was grade 1, 2, as Yun Jian, she was even more unwilling to let Yun Jian enter the administration office. I already said that the teacher isn't in the administration office right now. You're just here to get an award. Why do you have to come and get it now? What if the administration office lost something because of you? Can you afford to pay for it? The female student didn't let go and aggressively said to Yun Jian. Chapter 1675. This female classmate who was deeply doted on by the teacher and who usually followed the teacher around like a bootlicker was called Wang Tingting. Wang Tingting studied military medicine, which also meant that her strength was no different from that of a normal girl. A portion of the people in Min City's military school trained their skills every day. When they graduated, they would either become soldiers or special forces. There was also a portion of them who studied military medicine. Most of them were female. As a military medicine student, Wang Tingting didn't have a deep understanding of strength. Moreover, in Wang Tingting's impression, if a girl mixed with boys, trained her skills, and lived like a boy, how could she be considered a girl? Moreover, even if a girl joined the military, how capable could she be? Wasn't it just to attract the boys' attention? Wang Tingting was like an obedient girl in front of the teacher. She usually didn't put on makeup and was ugly, but she knew how to flatter. In front of the teacher, she was very good at flattering. Wang Tingting was very proud to be able to survive until now and be treated like a treasure by the teacher. She was a classic example of fawning in front of the teacher and being arrogant in front of the students. She had the attitude of, I have the teacher's support, you have to submit to me even if you don't want to. Therefore, the girls in Wang Tingting's class usually didn't want to interact with her. However, Wang Tingting liked to flirt with the boys and play around. Yun Jian wasn't afraid of Wang Tingting using the teacher to threaten her. She looked at Wang Tingting without changing her expression and said, the announcement is for me to get the certificate, so move aside. I already said that the teacher isn't in the academic affairs office now. Do you think you can enter just because you want to? If you have the guts, go and call the teacher back yourself. Otherwise, you can come and get the certificate later. Wang Tingting blocked the entrance of the academic affairs office. She raised her head and looked at Yun Jian arrogantly. Wang Tingting, are you helping the teacher here again? Just as Wang Tingting's voice fell, a group of boys walked over from the side. These boys were obviously seniors in the third year of high school. After the boys walked over, Wang Tingting first said a few flirtatious words to them. Then, she turned to point at Yun Jian and said to the boys, it's this girl. She didn't listen to me. I've already told her to come and collect the certificate later. Who's going to be responsible if something goes missing in the teacher's office? But she refused. Wang Tingting simply inverted right and wrong, black and white. Yun Jian had clearly heard the announcement and came to receive the award. However, Wang Tingting had stopped her. Not only had she used the teacher to threaten her, she had even accused Yun Jian of being the guilty party. Wang Tingting obviously had a good relationship with the boys who were walking around the school during the break. Hearing Wang Tingting's words, the boys looked at Yun Jian with strange eyes. Yun Jian was beautiful, but the boys also had a good relationship with Wang Tingting. Hearing that Yun Jian was here to receive the award, she recalled what she had heard on the radio just now. The boys scanned Yun Jian from head to toe. You're Yun Jian, the one in grade 1, 2, who was crowned as the strongest female student by Principal Ma himself. It can't be. She looks so small. I thought that Yun Jian was a she-devil who weighed 100 kilograms. How could it be her? The boys looked at Yun Jian with great interest. However, it didn't take long for the boys to look away. Yesterday, a few students in our school skipped school to eat supper at the snack street. Something big happened. At this moment, a boy suddenly spoke up. What happened? Wang Tingting immediately became interested when she heard this. Especially in front of Yun Jian. Wang Tingting felt that she got along well with these boys. Moreover, these boys were very good at gossiping. Therefore, she felt that it was very impressive to know these boys. At this moment, Wang Tingting wanted to brag in front of Yun Jian about how knowledgeable these boys were, so she quickly asked. Chapter 1676. When young boys and girls gathered together, the thing they liked to talk about the most was gossip. Hearing gossip from other people's mouths was far more interesting than hearing about what happened to themselves. A few boys wanted to brag about their gossiping skills in front of Yunjian, so they opened their mouths to talk. They didn't expect Wang Tingting to be so cooperative. As a result, the boys became even more excited. Bragging in front of girls was already a very fulfilling thing, let alone in front of a very beautiful female classmate. So the boys became more and more excited as they talked. Later on, that female classmate suppressed everyone. I heard that she was very powerful. Very cool. Yesterday, my brother also skipped school to have supper with his girlfriend. He saw it with his own eyes. That female classmate's strength can only be described with 4 words: invincible. One of the boys' saliva splashed. Yunjian was far away, so she wasn't splashed. The boys standing in front of this boy and Wang Tingting were splashed by the boy's saliva. But at this moment, no one said anything. Wow, that's amazing. Then do you know who that person is from our school? Wang Tingting revealed a look of admiration. Speaking of this, Wang Tingting glanced at Yunjian. While admiring the powerful person mentioned by the boys, she didn't forget to look at Yunjian with disdain. That person is really powerful. What about you? I really don't know how you got that strongest female student award. Pfft, don't tell me you got it by sleeping with your body. Wang Tingting's last sentence was quite loud. Yunjian was very good looking, but she was a freshman in high school. As a freshman, she didn't have much strength or experience. Her body was thin and weak, and she only had good looks. So other than sleeping with others, how could she get the strongest female student award? Just as Wang Tingting finished speaking, before Yunjian made a move, the boy who said that his brother saw the powerful scene of the female classmate yesterday with his own eyes pointed not far away and shouted in surprise. Look, that's my brother. I asked him to come over and tell you guys how powerful the female classmate he saw yesterday was. Hee hee. I heard that she snatched the gun away from him in an instant. Just as the boy finished speaking, he saw that his brother had already rushed over. Before the boy could finish his words, his brother had already looked at Yunjian as if he had seen his idol and shouted in surprise, "It's you. It's you. It's actually you. Yesterday, you were the one who flew out of the bench to block the bullet. You even snatched the gun from the woman who was holding it. You even told her that you can't even protect your own weapon. What kind of sharpshooter are you? Classmate, you're my idol." When the boy's brother saw Yunjian, he was so excited that words couldn't describe it. Seeing this, the surrounding people were instantly dumbfounded. What? She was the girl who was rumored to have snatched the pistol from the enemy. When Wang Tingting heard this, she felt a pain in her head. For a moment, she had a feeling of disbelief. She was the female classmate that everyone was talking about. However, this was not the end. Immediately, everyone was stunned when they saw a slightly older figure walking over from not far away. The moment he saw Yunjian, this slightly older man actually started running. The people present focused their gazes. Wasn't this man the Min City Military Academy's Principal Ma? Why was Principal Ma here too? Wang Tingting and the boys present were a little stunned. Before she could recover from her shock, she saw Principal Ma running to Yunjian and speaking to her in a rather agitated tone, "You're a genius, Mr. Ma. Classmate Yunjian, you really didn't let me down. You won first place in this selection competition. First place. Ha ha ha. Of the 100 Special Forces soldiers who participated in this selection competition, which one of them isn't the most powerful person in our country? And you actually won first place in the selection competition." Chapter 1677. As the principal of Min City Military Academy, Principal Ma was usually fierce, but he was very kind to students who needed help. However, as the principal of Min City Military Academy, he was not often in the school due to his official position. Therefore, most of the students only saw Principal Ma's serious face. Wang Tingting and the boys present were seniors in their third year of high school. They had been in Min City Military Academy for more than 2 years and it was now their third year. This was the first time they had seen Principal Ma so agitated. Come. Why are you still standing at the door? Go in. Come in for a cup of tea at the Academic Affairs office. Before Wang Tingting's face darkened, Principal Ma had already ushered Yun Jian into the Academic Affairs office as if he was a leader. Wang Tingting stood at the entrance of the Academic Affairs office. It was her first time encountering such a situation. She could not leave as she had not completed her teacher's orders. She could not stay either. After all, she had spoken to Yun Jian in that tone. She even said that Yun Jian's strongest female student award came from sleeping with her. However, she would never have guessed that the female student who had snatched the gun from the bad guy during the heated discussion yesterday, and the one who won first place in the preliminaries, the famous slashing god of Team Monarch, was actually her. This reality made Wang Tingting, who had been bad-mouthing Yun Jian, self-destruct. Not only that, Wang Tingting felt like her face had been slapped beyond recognition. Meanwhile, Principal Ma had already invited Yun Jian into the Academic Affairs office. He personally pulled out a stool in front of Yun Jian's desk for her to sit. Then, he eagerly went to pour a cup of tea for Yun Jian with both hands. Come. Drink some water first. Be careful, it's hot. I'll get you the award. After Principal Ma handed Yun Jian the cup of tea, he went to get the award. Wang Tingting was dumbfounded by what she saw. Wang Tingting loved to flatter. Usually, it would be impressive if she could flatter her teacher. In Wang Tingting's opinion, being able to curry favor with the principal was simply something to be proud of. However, when it came to Yun Jian, it was the principal who was flattering her. This, Wang Tingting's eyes darkened. Just as she was about to turn around and look for the boys who had been showing off in front of Yun Jian, she heard a voice coming from behind her. However, she suddenly realized that these boys had already slipped away when Principal Ma had politely invited Yun Jian into the house. Just now, he wanted to show off in front of the beautiful junior, so he flaunted his vast knowledge. She didn't know that the person the boys were showing off to was Yun Jian herself. Naturally, the boys were too ashamed to stay there. They didn't even say goodbye and ran away. In the end, Wang Tingting gritted her teeth and slipped away. She planned to wait for Yun Jian to leave before coming back to deal with the things that the teacher had instructed her to do. Later, she would use the excuse of having a stomachache to tell the teacher that she had a stomachache, so she went back to the toilet first before coming back to tidy up. After sitting in the Academic Affairs office for a while, Yun Jian returned to the classroom after being praised by Principal Ma. According to Principal Ma, the time to go to the hunting school had not been set yet, and they were still waiting for the notice. However, he told her to be prepared at all times. When the notice came, she would set off at any time. Yun Jian acknowledged Principal Ma and returned to the classroom. A week passed quickly and it was Friday in the blink of an eye. CE was not around on Friday. When Yun Jian returned to Longmen City, she felt that the house was a little lifeless. She was not used to it, but the night passed just like that. The next morning, when the sun had just risen, there was a knock on the door. Yun Jian did not even need to guess to know that it was Ruo Yin and Di Lin who were knocking. As expected, once the door opened, Yun Jian saw Ruo Yin who had left after knocking on the door and Di Lin who stood behind her. Di Lin was still in his initial disguise. He was dressed in black from head to toe with a black hoodie on his head, but it could not hide his handsome yet slightly pale face. "I'm here to pick up my woman." Lin went straight to the point. Yun Jian's lips curled into a smile. Chapter 1678. Let's go. Yun Jian waved. She walked around Ruoyin and Lin and led the way. Qin Yiru had gone to work at the florist early in the morning, so before Yun Jian brought Ruoyin and Lin to look for Lang Mei, they bought a few buns from the roadside and ate as they walked. Qin Yiru slept early and woke up early now. Working at the florist was not tiring at all. Other than taking care of the children, she looked much younger now compared to when she was working hard. Logically speaking, Qin Yiru should have spent the rest of her life at home 20 to 30 years earlier than her peers after giving birth to such a capable daughter like Yun Jian. However, Qin Yiru insisted on going to work. That was because once a person lacked exercise, their body would deteriorate. Some elderly people had a common problem before they passed away, which was that they could not walk. Walking was considered exercise too. Once a person stopped exercising, they would soon become useless. Therefore, even if the elderly were seriously ill, they should never forget to bring them out for a walk. Even if they could not walk, they should push their wheelchairs out to get some sunlight. Even if they could not live to 100 years old, they could at least live longer. Qin Yiru had realized this long ago, so she could not stop exercising. After buying a few buns, Yun Jian walked lazily on the way to Qin Yu's house while Ruoyin and Lin followed her without a word. It was neither near nor far from Qin Yu's house to Qin Yu's suite. Yun Yi usually had extra classes on Saturdays. Her studies in Songshan High School were especially tight, so she did not have a break on Saturdays and Sundays. "We've walked so far. Are we there yet?" You can't lie to us." Ruoyin could not help but shout after walking behind Yun Jian for a while. "I can't even afford a cab now after your people mess things up. Take your time, don't rush. Also, don't call me SS here. You can call me Yun Jian." Yun Jian turned to Ruoyin with a grin, half joking. Yun Jian was referring to the fact that the blood doll had recently interfered with the missions of the Kosha mercenaries. Ruoyin was rendered speechless by Yun Jian's words and was glared at by her own leader. Thus, Ruoyin could only swallow the words she wanted to say back to Yun Jian. "It's here." Yun Jian led Ruoyin and Lin on a leisurely walk for half an hour and finally arrived at Qin Yu's door. When she reached the door, Yun Jian stretched herself. It's nice to take a walk in the morning." What's more, there were 2 lackeys following behind him. This feeling was not bad. Yun Jian had the key to Qin Yu's house, so she took it out when they arrived at the door. As soon as the door opened, a graceful voice rang out from within the room. It's burnt. Ha ha ha. I've won 3 rounds today, so tonight's bowls, chopsticks, and our clothes are all yours." Yun Jian had just opened the door when this graceful voice sounded. Yun Jian raised a brow. Ruoyin and Lin could not help the corners of their lips twitching when they heard the female voice. The female voice undoubtedly came from Lang Mei. Just as the female voice ended, another young voice continued, Grandpa. Let's go save Grandpa." Inside the house, Lang Mei, Qin Yu, and Gu Nianji were playing mahjong together. The 3 of them had nothing to do, so they decided who would wash the dishes and clothes today based on the outcome of the mahjong game. Lang Mei had won 3 rounds in a row. She spread out the mahjong tiles excitedly and stood up. The color TV next to her was still playing Qin Yu's favorite show, Calabash Brothers. Yun Jian could not help the twitch of her lips when she saw this scene as soon as she stepped through the door. Lang Mei stood up excitedly and even made an "I've won" gesture. However, Just as she stood up to cheer her victory, she caught sight of Yun Jian, who was standing outside the door, and Di Lin, who was standing behind Yun Jian and Ruo Yin. Lang Mei almost slipped when she saw Di Lin. She steadied herself and looked at Di Lin in shock. Leader! Leader, why are you here? Lang Mei had always thought that she was just Di Lin's mistress. Now that she was captured by Yun Jian, Di Lin would only give up on her as a pawn. Chapter 1679. Ruo Yin was dumbfounded when she saw Lang Mei wearing Qing Yu's rabbit slippers and cute teddy bear pajamas. She looked so relaxed and comfortable. When Lang Mei was in the blood doll, she had always presented herself as an aloof and cold person. What was up with her today, though? The moment the chief found out that Lang Mei was captured by Yun Jian, he could not sleep well and did not eat much during the day. SS was known for their ruthlessness. Who knew if Lang Mei would be killed after being captured by Yun Jian? However, reality proved that Ruo Yin and Di Lin were wrong. Not only was Lang Mei not dead, she was still wearing the rabbit slippers and teddy bear pajamas as she played mahjong with Qing Yu and Gu Nianji. After winning the game, she even jumped up excitedly to tell Qing Yu and Gu Nianji, who were in the same team as SS who captured her, that they would take care of the bowls, chopsticks, and clothes for the three of them tonight. Where was the danger? The chief was worried that something would happen to Lang Mei, so he gave the entire blood doll organization to Yun Jian. Yet, Lang Mei was hiding here playing mahjong. Ruo Yin, you're here too. Lang Mei looked at Ruo Yin and lowered her hand that was raised in excitement. She gulped and looked at Di Lin and Ruo Yin, her voice growing softer. Lang Mei, you're living such a comfortable life. The chief was so worried about you that he didn't eat or sleep well for the past few days. Ruo Yin said to Lang Mei. However, just as Ruo Yin said that, Di Lin glanced sideways and glared at her. This made Ruo Yin, who wanted to exaggerate to Lang Mei about what Di Lin had done for her these days, shut her mouth. God, the chief's gaze was too scary. For the sake of her life, she should find a chance to tell Lang Mei, this slow-witted woman. Yun Jian stood at the door and watched Di Lin walk in. She walked over without a word to grab Lang Mei's hand, who was standing in front of the mahjong table, and dragged her out. Leader, how did you find this place? Before Lang Mei could finish her sentence, Di Lin dragged Lang Mei out of the room with a dark face. He did not say a word. The blood doll is yours. After dragging Lang Mei to the door, Di Lin turned to look at Yun Jian. After saying that, he dragged Lang Mei, who had no idea what had happened, out of the room. What? Why did the blood doll organization? Why did it belong to Yun Jian? What did the chief promise Yun Jian? Lang Mei suddenly had a bad premonition. However, just as Di Lin grabbed Lang Mei's wrist and was about to leave, Yun Jian's voice suddenly came from behind him. I'll take the blood dolls, but you're still the leader of the blood dolls. Di Lin stopped in his tracks. Leader. You gave her the blood doll. Why? Don't tell me it's because of me. Lang Mei was the #1 expert in the blood doll organization, but her EQ was nothing to scoff at. Lang Mei thought for a long time before realizing that Di Lin was doing all this for her. He didn't love her, so why would he give up the entire blood doll organization for her? Di Lin did not look at Lang Mei, but he tightened his grip on her wrist. He looked up and met Yun Jian's eyes. What she meant was, she took the blood doll, but he and the rest of the blood doll organization did not have to leave. It was just the blood doll organization working for her. That was all. Really? Di Lin was puzzled. Naturally, he did not want to give the blood doll that his father had created to someone else. However, he had no choice this time. Chapter 1680. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes and looked at Di Lin with her pretty ones as she spoke solemnly. Her goal wasn't to take over Blood Doll from the very beginning. Instead, she wanted the Blood Doll, including everyone in the Blood Doll organization, to become her people. A powerful and capable person didn't mean that he had to take over a powerful company. Instead, he had to make all the powerful people in the company his subordinates and use them for his own purposes. Because a company itself wasn't valuable. What was valuable was not the company itself, but the powerful people in the company. Di Lin finally understood how terrifying Yun Jian was. Rumor had it that SS wasn't just powerful, she was also very calculative. She lived up to her reputation. Follow SS and you'll have meat to eat. Sure enough, this was not just a general statement. The mission to assassinate you and obstruct the Kosha mercenaries was given a high reward by a man in a black robe. We're just taking the money. Di Lin didn't promise Yun Jian directly. Instead, he told her everything he knew to show his sincerity. Yun Jian said that he would still be the leader of Blood Doll, but Blood Doll would be under SS control from now on. Di Lin agreed to this. If Yun Jian wasn't SS, Di Lin would rather give Blood Doll away than work for Yun Jian. But Yun Jian was SS, follow SS and you'll have meat to eat. For this reason alone, Di Lin agreed. I can feel your sincerity. Well then, it's a pleasure working with you. Yun Jian's lips curled up slightly. Let's have a pleasant cooperation. Di Lin and Yun Jian came to an agreement. Smart people like to talk to smart people. It wasn't without reason. Leader, I. Di Lin grabbed Lang Mei's wrist. She knew that everything today was for her sake. She couldn't help but feel guilty. Let's go home. Di Lin turned and walked out with Lang Mei's hand. Leader, I'm sorry. Lang Mei wanted to say something more apologetic. Don't call me Master Chief anymore. Di Lin grabbed Lang Mei's wrist tightly, then suddenly stopped and growled at her. But why? Lang Mei asked in confusion. Are you stupid? Don't scream if the leader asks you not to. Even Ruoyin couldn't help but worry about Lang Mei's EQ. Lang Mei swallowed her saliva and shut her mouth. When Lang Mei was about to disappear from Di Lin's grasp, Yun Jian saw Qin Yu and Gu Nianji running out of the house. Qin Yu stood at the door and waved at Lang Mei. Let's play a few hundred rounds of mahjong next time. I don't believe that I can't beat you. It was only after Lang Mei and the others left that Yun Jian turned to look at Qin Yu and Gu Nianji, her lips curling into a smile. Are you addicted to mahjong? Do you want to go to Asia and play mahjong under the warm sun? No need. Sister Jian, let's go out for a walk, haha. Qin Yu tugged at Gu Nianji's hand and dashed out. Yun Jian's lips curled up again at the sight of them. It was then that her phone rang. Looking up to see that it was Zhang Xiaofeng calling, Yun Jian looked up slightly and answered the call. Just as the call connected, the voice that came from the other end was not Zhang Xiaofeng but Ling Yichen. Ling Yichen spoke to Yun Jian in a hopeless and shaky tone. His voice came from the other end of the phone, accompanied by howls of pain and despair. Chapter 1681. Ling Yichen's words were laced with deep despair, sorrow, and trembling. It was so soft that Yun Jian would not have heard it if she did not listen carefully. Such emotions would only be expressed when one's family member or important friend was in trouble. Such emotions were indescribable with words. It was a feeling of despair and sorrow dominating. Unable to speak due to the pain, one would tremble from fear, and the feeling that one had no future. Ling Yichen was in such a state now. Zhang Xiaofeng and Qin Sini were Ling Yichen's best friends. Therefore, when something happened to Qin Sini, Ling Yichen was dumbfounded. Although he was close to Chen Sini, it was not as close as Zhang Xiaofeng and Chen Sini. Ling Yichen used Zhang Xiaofeng's phone to call Yun Jian because Zhang Xiaofeng could not say a word after calling Yun Jian. How could Zhang Xiaofeng say something like that? Even the doctor said that Sini was dying. After Yun Jian heard Ling Yichen's words, her lackadaisical gaze sharpened. "Where are you?" Yun Jian asked curtly. "We're at Longmen City People's Hospital." Ling Yichen's voice had just rung when Yun Jian hung up. Ling Yichen did not get a reply from Yun Jian. Instead, what he got was the beeping sound of the phone being hung up. In less than 10 minutes, Yun Jian had arrived at Longmen City People's Hospital from Qing Yu's house. It was not close to Longmen City People's Hospital from Qing Yu's house. Yun Jian had intercepted a motorcycle midway to the hospital. Before she stopped the motorcycle, Yun Jian had told the owner to pick up his bike at the hospital. Hence, the owner had chased her all the way to the hospital before he could retrieve his bike safely. Of course, this was a story for later. Yun Jian drove the motorcycle to the hospital and dashed inside. Outside the emergency room, Zhang Xiaofeng was sitting on the floor paralyzed while Ling Yichen was not in a better state. There were a few adults sitting around with their heads lowered. They were no doubt Chen Sini's parents and relatives. When Yun Jian arrived, the emergency room door was already open. A doctor in white was reporting to the paralyzed Zhang Xiaofeng, Ling Yichen, and Chen Sini's parents and family members. The patient's time of death is October 17, 1999, 9:40 a.m. The doctor was still reporting the numbers, but the family members standing outside the emergency room have a mental breakdown. Zhang Xiaofeng and Ling Yichen were paralyzed, unable to say a word. No. No, no, no. How can my daughter be dead? She's so young. How can she be? Please. Save her again. Save her. She's still so young. She hasn't even passed her prime yet. Doctor, I beg you. I'm begging you. Chen Sini's mother had already broken down. As she spoke, tears blurred her vision and she knelt down in front of the doctor. Chen Sini's relatives were all ashen-faced. What a good child. Was she gone just like that? Just as everyone was in despair and breaking down, wailing in grief and pain, their hearts constricted and their tears flowed uncontrollably. In the midst of the haze, a small and slender figure flashed past everyone's eyes. Before everyone could react, Yun Jian's petite figure was already standing in front of the doctor who reported the news of Chen Sini's death with a straight face. She reached out and grabbed the doctor's collar. She won't die. Get out of my way. The doctor refused to let her pass and even said to Yun Jian, I know you're upset, but the dead can't come back to life. Chapter 1682. Just as she said that, she was already holding a butterfly knife that she had pulled out of nowhere. The butterfly knife was already pressed against the doctor's neck agilely. Grim Reaper's hand. Who in this field did not know about the Grim Reaper's hand in the medical field? It was the living dead, the existence of flesh and bones. Even if it was a dead person who was carried into a coffin, the Grim Reaper's hand could revive the person in seconds. The legendary Grim Reaper's hand was not human at all. It was a living Huatuo, a celestial being who had descended from the heavens. Therefore, when he heard Yun Jian's self-introduction, the doctor who was used to seeing life and death parting narrowed his eyes and staggered. Yun Jian had announced her identity directly so that there would be no obstacles. Now that she was confirmed dead, it meant that Chen Sini had been resuscitated many times in the hands of these doctors. The time wasted could have cost a person who could have been revived. This moment was different from when Qin Yira's hand was injured back then. A life was at stake. If they did not resuscitate Chen Sini in the shortest time possible, even she would not be able to save her. Perhaps it was the way Yun Jian wielded the butterfly knife just now that was comparable to a doctor who held a scalpel for years and had amazing skill with it. The doctor who was expressionless earlier dashed to the director's office in horror after hearing Yun Jian's words. Chen Sini's relatives and friends who stood where they were had never heard of the Grim Reaper's hand. However, seeing the change in the doctor's expression just now, everyone placed their hopes on Yun Jian. In the end, Yun Jian entered the operating room under the pleading of Chen Sini's mother. 3 hours later, with the director's assistance, Yun Jian completed the operation that cut into the brain. The operation was completed successfully and Chen Sini was safe. The brain was the most dangerous part of the human body that could not be injured the most because it was the most important part of the human body. It was fine if other parts were injured, but if there was a problem with the brain that controlled the entire body, the danger was imaginable. When Yun Jian came out of the operating room and announced Chen Sini's rescue, the entire Longmen City People's Hospital was in an uproar. Chen Sini's parents were indescribably grateful to Yun Jian. Zhang Xiaofeng and Ling Yichen, who were paralyzed earlier, also recovered. Sini was still alive. It's good that he's alive. As long as he was alive, anything could be healed. What happened? Yun Jian asked Zhang Xiaofeng and Ling Yi after getting rid of the crowd. Half an hour later, Yun Jian arrived at the gate of No. 1 Middle School alone. Yizhong was a key high school in Longmen City. Yizhong students had classes on Saturdays and only had weekend breaks from Saturday night to the weekend dinner time. Therefore, the students of No. 1 Middle School were still in school. Chen Sini accidentally met the school beau of No. 1 Middle School. In order to avoid the pursuit of the ugliest girl in No. 1 Middle School, the school beau of No. 1 Middle School treated Chen Sini as cannon fodder and madly pursued her. The ugliest girl in No. 1 Middle School came from a wealthy family. She was a very powerful person. Therefore, the school beau of No. 1 Middle School was pestered by her as well. The ugliest girl in No. 1 Middle School thought that the school beau of No. 1 Middle School had really fallen in love with Chen Sini, so she pushed Chen Sini down from the second floor and her head hit the ground when she was arguing with Chen Sini this morning. That was right. Yun Jian was here to avenge Chen Sini. Without a doubt, Chen Sini had become the group's scapegoat. Moreover, with the ugliest girl's family background, even if something really happened to Chen Sini, the girl would be fine as she was still underage. At most, she would be sent to the police station for a while before she was released. When Yun Jian entered the school gate, the guard uncle stopped her, but Yun Jian leaped through the 2-meter-tall gate. The guard uncle was so frightened that he dared not chase after her. No. 1 Middle School's second-year class, 6, the class of the school beau. He, Ching Jun, that Chen Sini from first-year class, 2, is in deep trouble because of you. She might not even be alive now. Aren't you afraid? A boy was talking to another good-looking boy. Pfft, if you didn't mention it, I would have forgotten about her. Hey, I didn't push her. Why should I be afraid? The boy called Ching Jun said confidently. At this moment, a petite and beautiful figure appeared at the gate. While the crowd was amazed by Yun Jian's beauty when she came in, they did not forget to gossip about her. However, Yun Jian glanced over and asked coldly, "Who is the school beau of No. 1 Middle School?" "Him, it's him." "Beauty, why are you looking for the school beau of No. 1 Middle School? Don't tell me you want to chase him." Ha ha ha. The boy who was talking to the school beau of No. 1 Middle School, Zhang Qingjun, immediately pointed at Zhang Qingjun and teased Yun Jian with a smile. Everyone in the class laughed when they heard this. As soon as the boy finished speaking, Zhang Qingjun brushed his bangs and was about to exclaim about his charm. However, Yun Jian's figure flashed. She quickly drew her knife and the butterfly knife flew out like a sword. She appeared in front of Zhang Qingjun in an instant, grabbed the butterfly knife and stabbed it directly into Zhang Qingjuan's thigh in front of everyone. Chapter 1683. When Yun Jian entered the classroom to ask who the most handsome guy in EE was, the students in class 2-6 had thought that Yun Jian was a student from another school. Zhang Qingjun was very famous in Longmen City. Due to his good looks and results, many high school students in Longmen City knew who he was. Even some of the junior high school students knew who Zhang Qingjun was. Therefore, the students thought that Yun Jian had chased after Zhang Qingjun, the most handsome guy in their school, because she admired him. In spite of it, no one expected Yun Jian, who gave off the impression of a meek high school girl the moment she appeared, to suddenly appear in front of Zhang Qingjun in a few blinks. His skills were like those of a martial artist. Everyone was dumbfounded when they saw an ordinary girl display such a powerful ability. That was not the end of it. The students in the class saw Yun Jian appearing in front of Zhang Qingjun in a flash. While he was feeling good about himself, she flipped her hand and stabbed a knife into Zhang Qingjun's thigh before anyone could react. She then uttered the words that made the pupils of all the students in Zhang Qingjun's class shrink. Ah! 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 However, at this moment, Zhang Qingjun's piercing scream had already sounded. The pain of being stabbed in the thigh by Yun Jian was far more real and terrifying than one could imagine. The students who witnessed the scene dashed out of the classroom in fright to call for the teacher. Only a few braver ones or Zhang Qingjun's friends remained in the classroom. You're Qinsini's friend. Why didn't she tell us that she has such a powerful friend like you? Otherwise, they would never have provoked Qinsini. The few boys in the class who played with Zhang Qingjun and even instigated Zhang Qingjun to cause trouble for Qinsini were so scared that their faces turned pale. When they heard Yun Jian asking about Zhang Qingjun earlier, they were still standing by the side, mocking and exaggerating while whistling and watching the show. At this moment, all of them were scared half to death. Yun Jian was obviously not an ordinary person. Wasn't Qinsini just the daughter of a wealthy businessman? How did she get to know such a terrifying friend? Why would a normal girl rush up and stab a knife into someone's thigh? It was such a terrifying scene. Normal girls would be scared just by imagining it, but what about her? After stabbing the knife into Zhang Qingjun's thigh, she actually said those words without changing her expression. Teacher Gua. Right here. A girl rushed into our class and stabbed Zhang Qingjun's leg with a knife. Outside the classroom, the voice of the student who had run out to call for the teacher could be heard. Soon, a male teacher with a large pile of fat on his abdomen and a shiny scalp walked into the classroom under the protection of the crowd. As soon as this male teacher called Teacher Gua entered the classroom, all the students present quieted down. Seeing Zhang Qingjun rolling on the ground, Mr. Gua's face darkened. He shouted to the surrounding students, "Go and call an ambulance." After shouting, Mr. Guo looked at Yun Jian and said fiercely, "Which school are you from? How did you get in? You're so young and you don't learn good things. How dare you hurt someone in our school? Don't think that you can't go to the police station because you're not 18 yet. If you dare to hurt someone in public, you'll definitely go to the juvenile detention center for 10 to 8 years." Zhang Qingjun's family background was not ordinary. Now that something had happened to Zhang Qingjun at school, Zhang Qingjun's family would naturally not let Yun Jian off. Seeing Mr. Gua's appearance, Zhang Qingjun's friends who were afraid of Yun Jian just now calmed down a little. Mr. Gua was a physical education teacher in No. 1 high school. At the same time, he had undergone strict training. His strength was naturally different from ordinary people. With Mr. Guo around, everyone believed that Yun Jian would not dare to do anything. However, after hearing Mr. Guo's words, Yun Jian gave a cold smile. She raised her foot and stepped on the butterfly knife that had pierced into Zhang Qingjuan's thigh, sending the knife further in. This time, Zhang Qingjun curled up in pain and finally fainted. The surrounding people looked at Yun Jian in disbelief, who still dared to make a move. However, when they heard Yun Jian's words, they said coldly and arrogantly, "Tell your principal of number 1 high school to come and see me immediately. Otherwise, I'll kill him right now." Chapter 1684. She wasn't joking. At this moment, everyone was shocked by Yun Jian's actions. If the first stab wasn't enough to make Zhang Qingjun faint, then when Yun Jian stepped on his wound a few more times, it was simply fatal. Ordinary girls would be scared when they saw such a scene, but this girl. Not only was she not afraid, but she also did something even more shocking. "Go and call the principal." Mr. Gua, who was very calm just now, also panicked. He was so scared that his face changed and he quickly shouted at the students behind him. If a person's aura could support the sky, then Yun Jian's aura was enough to make Mr. Gua's legs go weak. Before becoming a physical education teacher, Mr. Gua had undergone professional strength training. Although Mr. Gua was fat, when he fought, his speed was faster and more agile than most people. However, in front of Yun Jian's aura, Mr. Gua didn't even dare to say a word. After about 3 minutes, the principal of number 1 high school was called here in a hurry. Seeing Zhang Qingjun unconscious on the ground with his thigh bleeding, the principal's face instantly turned extremely pale. Zhang Qingjun's family background was not ordinary. His parents' company was famous in the entire Zhe province. Most importantly, Zhang Qingjun's father was the director of number 1 high school. If Zhang Qingjun's father found out that something had happened to Zhang Qingjun in school, then he wouldn't be able to be the principal anymore. Therefore, when Principal Shi of number 1 high school saw this scene, he was scared silly. You. Stop. Seeing Yun Jian deal with Zhang Qingjun, Principal Shi was so scared that he rushed over to stop her. "You can come over, but my knife doesn't have eyes." When Yun Jian saw this, she flipped her hand and held another butterfly knife in her palm. Then, she swung the butterfly knife and placed it on the neck of the unconscious Zhang Qingjun as fast as she could. A knife again. How many knives is she hiding on her body? Why can't I tell that she's hiding a weapon just by looking at her appearance? Is she an agent in the movies? She can actually hide a weapon on her body. When the surrounding students saw Yun Jian take out another butterfly knife, they immediately widened their eyes in horror. Even if an ordinary person were to hide money on their body, they wouldn't be able to do it without making a sound. They also couldn't guarantee that the money wouldn't be lost if it was hidden in their clothes. However, she had hidden 2 butterfly knives. These 2 butterfly knives were not small. She hid them on her body without any flaws. Was this something an ordinary girl could do? No. Stop. I will do my best to satisfy you. As long as you put down the knife. Principal Shi was scared out of his wits by Yun Jian's actions. He waved his hand to show his weakness to Yun Jian. Hearing this, Yun Jian kicked the fainted Zhang Qingjun away. Naturally, she disdained to use Zhang Qingjun to threaten others. In just 2 short steps, Yun Jian walked in front of Principal Shi and the others. She looked at Principal Shi and the others and said calmly without any change in her expression. "Chen Xinyi, who was pushed down from the 2nd floor this morning, is my friend. She was almost declared dead and was barely saved. However, because this incident left her with severe repercussions, I request that your school handle this matter impartially." The culprit who pushed Chen Xinyi down from the 2nd floor was the ugliest girl in number 1 middle school. Her name was Chen Yaqing. After Chen Xinyi's accident, Chen Yaqing was brought back home by her family. Because Chen Yaqing came from a wealthy family, her father was the richest man in the entire southern region. Therefore, Principal Shi didn't dare to expose Chen Yaqing. To put it bluntly, even if Chen Sini died, as the culprit, Chen Yaqing and Zhang Qingjun, nothing would happen to them. The two of them would go to school. In the end, they would use the excuse that they were underage and accidentally hurt someone to cover up the matter. Then, the matter would be settled. Hearing that Yun Jian wanted him to handle this matter impartially, Principal Shi was so scared that his face turned pale. He would rather offend Zhang Qingjun's family than Chen Yaqing's family. What if I don't agree? Principal Shi's voice became louder. Compared to Zhang Qingjun, Chen Yaqing's family was even more terrifying. Chapter 1685. Yun Jian's insolent words were like a landmine that spread to every corner of the place, stupefying everyone for a moment. When they came back to their senses, they were bewildered. Bomb number 1 middle school. She had the ability to bomb the entire school. The students present were slightly taken aback. Look, she said she's going to bomb number 1 middle school. Some of the students were stunned for 2 seconds after hearing what Yun Jian said before bursting into laughter. The students were genuinely thinking that it would be great if Yun Jian really had the ability to bomb number 1 middle school. However, the problem was that she, a teenage girl, actually said she was going to bomb number 1 middle school. Would it not be a joke if she said something like that? The students around them could not stop guffawing when they heard what Yun Jian said, but Principal Shi and Teacher Guo could not bring themselves to laugh. So arrogant at such a young age. As the principal of number 1 middle school, I've given you a chance, but you're so stubborn. You're a lunatic. Principal Shi shouted through gritted teeth at Yun Jian. Even Principal Shi was infuriated by what Yun Jian said. Yun Jian smirked when she heard that. Yun Jian then dialed a number right in front of Principal Shi. Coordinates to the principal's office in Country Zhi Province, Longmen City number 1 middle school. Lock on and bomb it. The students who thought that Yun Jian was joking thought that Yun Jian was crazy when they heard what Yun Jian said. She's from a mental hospital, isn't she? Let's go tie her up and send her back to the mental hospital. A male student at the side seemed to have snapped out of it as he pointed at Yun Jian and said to the group. Other than a lunatic, who else would do such a series of things just now? Other than a lunatic, no one else would do what Yun Jian did, right? Stabbing someone's thigh, saying she was going to bomb the school and even dialing a number. No normal person would do that. Actually, the male student only said this because he wanted to take a few bites of Yun Jian's tofu when he rushed over to tie her up. Even if Yun Jian was really crazy, how could there be such a beautiful crazy person in the world? The surrounding boys were all thinking that if Yun Jian was really crazy, when Yun Jian returned to the mental hospital, they must go to the mental hospital one by one to find her. Do some disgusting things. Boys in their youth wouldn't think too much about the future, but some boys would even do things that they shouldn't do in order to show off their prowess. As a result, many girls in the real world were deceived by boys of this age with flowery words, and in the end, they ended up in a miserable state. After listening to the male student's words, these boys started to fantasize. If Yun Jian was really a patient who escaped from a mental hospital, then wouldn't they be able to do whatever they wanted? However, just as this group of disgusting boys were imagining things that they couldn't accept and were about to walk towards Yun Jian one by one, trying to suppress Yun Jian together, in the distance, a loud roar came from the office building. Boom! That sound was so loud that it almost shook the sky, as if the eaves were about to collapse. Hearing this loud sound, the boys who wanted to do something, as well as Principal Shi, Teacher Guo, and the others, were all shocked. When the sound of the explosion had just subsided, Principal Shi suddenly trembled. After he came to his senses, he ran from the classroom to the classroom corridor as fast as he could. From the classroom corridor, one could see the office building in the distance. At this time, everyone could clearly see that in the office building in the distance, only the principal's office had been directly blown up. The other rooms in the office building were intact. Seeing this scene, the principal screamed, "My office! My office!" At this point, the principal and all the students present looked at Yunjian fiercely. What she just said, was true. Who the hell was she? She could actually order people to directly target and blow up an office. At this moment, everyone's faces looked as if they had eaten dog shit. They couldn't bear to look at it directly. Chapter 1686. Everyone at the scene was shocked. Especially Principal Sher. You. Principal Sher was scared out of his wits. When he came back to his senses after a long time, he pointed at Yunjian with his trembling fingers that could not be looked straight at. Shaking like a ball, he shouted a string of "you," but no words came out of his mouth in the end. It could focus on the sniper's spot on the office floor. Qing Yu clapped her hands and retracted the mini cannon she had aimed at the principal's office. It's powerful. These two potions can cause a huge explosion when mixed together. It feels like a cannon attack on a building, but actually, if the police investigate, they'll only find out that it's an explosion caused by two chemical potions. The school has chemical potions too, so the final conclusion of the investigation will be that 2 bottles of chemical potions were accidentally placed in the principal's office and caused a natural disaster. They'll never guess that it's Sister Jian. Perfect. Wrap up. Qing Yu put her mini cannon back into her concoction box and clapped her hands, turning to chuckle at Gu Nianji. The chuckle sent chills down Gu Nianji's spine. So, it could be done like this. Using chemical potions to create an illusion that the office was destroyed by a cannon. If the principal's office was really destroyed with a cannon, the police would definitely investigate. Yunjian still had to survive in Longmen City after all. It was undeniable that Qing Yu's research on poisons had reached a new level. She had turned them into chemical potions. Gu Nianji suddenly grabbed Qing Yu and blinked her mischievous eyes, telling her, "Qing Yu, take me in as your disciple." Gu Nianji's eyelashes fluttered with each "I'm hungry. I want to eat 10 caddies of hairy crabs and lobsters." Qing Yu suddenly placed her hand on her stomach and glanced at Gu Nianji with a gaze that said, "Hurry up and treat me. It's no big deal. Let's go. Let's wrap up and have a feast." Gu Nianji hugged Qing Yu's shoulders and both of them left the place. Inside and outside the classroom corridor, Principal Sher was petrified from the shock while the students around him were dumbfounded. At this moment, no one was acting normal. It was only when they recovered from the shock that they shifted their attention back to Yunjian. Yunjian, who was still standing at the same spot, shot a cold glance at Principal Sher. Then, Yunjian looked around and said to all the students present, "If you're smart, when the higher-ups come to investigate my friend's case, tell them the truth and don't be biased. Otherwise, don't blame me for blowing up everyone's homes." "Oh. That's right, I'll blow up your people as well." There was no one in the principal's office, so only the principal's office was destroyed. Yunjian's purpose was to intimidate everyone present. The stab he gave Zhang Qingjun just now was not fatal, but Zhang Qingjun could forget about walking with that leg for the rest of his life. As for what Yunjian had said just now, if Yunjian had not mentioned it, then everyone present, including Principal Sher and Teacher Guo, would not have said anything. When the police came to investigate Chin Sini's case, be it Principal Shi, Teacher Gua, or everyone present, they would definitely point out that it was Chin Sini who had accidentally fallen from the second floor. As for Chin Sini being pushed down from the second floor by Chin Yaching, as long as one was not stupid, they would know who to side with. In addition, if Yun Jian had not intervened, Chin Sini would have been declared dead. Therefore, the final outcome would be that even if Chin Sini died, the culprit would not receive retribution. Because Chin Sini was in school, if everyone who witnessed it said that Chin Sini had fallen from the second floor, then even if Chin Sini's parents went to court with Chin Yaching, they would not win. However, with Yun Jian's threat, it would be impossible for Chin Yaching to remain unscathed after this incident. Chapter 1687. Zhang Qingjun was sent to the hospital by the ambulance that came later. No one dared to stop Yun Jian from leaving Yi Hai. Everyone was eager for Yun Jian to leave when she was faced with such a terrifying person. Principal Shi dared not stop Yun Jian all the more. Of course, he would not let the matter go just like that. She had blown up his office. The police would definitely investigate. He would say more when the time came, including Zhang Qingjun's injury, and have the police deal with Yun Jian as well. Principal Shi had no idea that his office looked like it was destroyed by a cannon on the surface, but it was actually a huge explosion caused by 2 bottles of chemical potions mixed together. After leaving Yi Hai, Yun Jian hailed a cab to a villa in Longmen City. The cab even made a trip to New Cruise and Falcon Hall's headquarters along the way. Zhang Xiaofeng and Ling Yichen got into the car at New Cruise and Falcon Hall's headquarters. That girl called Chin Yaching is Chen Fugui's daughter. Chen Fugui is the richest and most powerful tycoon in the southern region. He's currently staying in Longmen City's Jifang Road's villa. Once Zhang Xiaofeng and Ling Yichen got into the car, the latter told Yun Jian what he found out about Falcon Hall. Zhang Xiaofeng, Chen Sini, and Ling Yichen were usually helping Zhang Jifan manage New Cruise when they had nothing to do. When New Cruise and Falcon Hall collaborated, Zhang Xiaofeng, Ling Yichen, and Ling Yichen worked together to manage Falcon Hall in secret. Zhang Xiaofeng, Ling Yichen, and Ling Yichen were all geniuses with plenty of ingenious ideas. Now that New Cruise had become Country Z's leading brand, Zhang Xiaofeng and Ling Yichen's help was indispensable. If Chin Yaching knew what Chin Sini was doing in New Cruise, she would not dare do anything to Chin Sini. Although Chin Yaching's father was the richest tycoon in the southern region, he was nothing compared to New Cruise. Go to Jifang Road, Yun Jian said to the cab driver with a grim expression. Jifang Road, Villa Forest. There were many villas here, but there was only one villa that was the biggest on Jifang Road. This villa was naturally Chin Yaching's home. At this moment, the guard at the entrance of the villa was still watching the door while munching on melon seeds. At first glance, he saw a slender young lady with 2 handsome young men following behind her. Each of them had their own strengths as they walked towards him. The young girl walked at the front, and the 2 youths behind her were like her subordinates. The reason why the guard thought so was because the girl's aura was simply too powerful. She was so powerful that the guard could only watch as Yun Jian stood in front of the door, cracked the password lock, and walked into the villa within 3 seconds. It was only after she had walked far away that the guard reacted. Hey hey hey. He couldn't leave. You can't leave. By the time the guards chased after them, Yun Jian and the other 2 had already disappeared. Rich and powerful families often held parties. At this moment, Chen Fugui had invited all the socialites and handsome men of the same age to hold a party at his house. Chen Yaching was also wearing a gorgeous dress, and chatted with the handsome men of the upper class as if nothing had happened. Your daughter is becoming more and more beautiful. In the corner, a bald middle-aged man praised Chen Yaching against his conscience. In fact, Chen Yaqing's ugliness was unrivaled. Chen Fugui was amused when he heard that. He even nodded and clinked his wine glass with the middle-aged man's. However, at the moment when the two wine glasses touched, the door was kicked open. The door was not kicked open, but was directly kicked open from outside. The entire door was spread on the ground like a carpet. This sudden turn of events caused everyone present to be shocked. Outside the door, a slender young girl stopped and entered. Behind the young girl were two handsome men. Seeing that this young lady was the one who kicked open the door, Chen Fugui was stunned. He didn't seem to have invited her, right? How dare she kick open the door of his house? Who are you, and what are you doing here? Do you know where this is? How dare you be so arrogant? Chen Fugui stood out and shouted at Yun Jian. Chapter 1688. I'll gladly accept your position as the richest man in the southern region. Yun Jian's arrogant words rang out right after Chen Fugui's words and reached everyone's ears. Yun Jian's words carried an undeniable arrogance, especially her last sentence, which attracted everyone's attention. Even Chen Fugui could not help but widen his eyes at Yun Jian, who barged in. Everyone was stunned. After the shock, there was a dead silence. After a long while, someone finally spoke up. New Cruises Director. Falcon Hall's boss, Rakshasa. Fugui, who's this little girl? After a pause, a middle-aged man asked in surprise. The person who asked was a similarly wealthy middle-aged man whom Chen Fugui had invited to the party. This little girl even claimed to be New Cruises Director, Falcon Hall's boss, Rakshasa. I say, Fugui, did you bully this little girl again? Ha, she even came knocking on our door. Does your wife know about this? As soon as the middle-aged man's voice fell, a burst of laughter rang out. It was an old man in his 50s or 60s who was about to enter old age. The old man's smile was devilish as he looked at Chen Fugui with a mischievous gaze. Chen Fugui was the richest man in the southern region, which was also the richest man in the entire southern region of Country Z. When a man had money, he would think of being a playboy. This wasn't just a saying. Usually, a man like Chen Fugui, although he wouldn't bring his mistress home, he still kept countless mistresses outside. Naturally, Chen Fugui's wife would not care. She only needed to keep her position as the wife and protect the family's assets. No matter how many mistresses Chen Fugui had, as long as he did not give most of the family's assets to his mistress, everything would be fine. Many rich men were like that. That was why after seeing Yun Jian's unfriendly words to Chen Fugui, the old man suspected that Yun Jian was one of Chen Fugui's female students. Chen Fugui already had one foot in the coffin. His taste was really big. As for what Yun Jian had just said, after the old man's interruption, the people present did not listen to a single word. Everyone only felt Yun Jian's arrogance, but directly ignored the other words that Yun Jian had just said. Tisk, you're so young, yet you don't learn to be good. You're learning from others to be a mistress. You're even using New Cruise and Falcon Hall as shields. She's so beautiful. Look, that figure is slender, but that chest, could it be that it's because of a man's love? The old men around them mocked and ridiculed Yun Jian, mixed with uncontrollable lust. It had to be said that Yun Jian was really beautiful, and the group of old men around her was really rich. Rich old men would naturally think more. However, Chen Fugui was the only one who knew that he had never seen Yun Jian before this. There was a glint in Yun Jian's eyes when she heard the commotion. Dad, I don't know her. Get someone to chase her away. Chen Yaqing was wearing a gorgeous princess gown. She was ugly, so no matter how she dressed up, it would be futile. The moment Chen Yaqing finished speaking, the people around them who were lying through their teeth gradually stopped talking. It's fine if you don't know me. It's enough that you know Chen Sini. Yun Jian followed up right after Chen Yaqing finished speaking. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes and continued sneering. Because I'll send you to hell on her behalf. After listening to his daughter and Yun Jian's conversation, Chen Fugue knew very well that Yun Jian must have come because of Chen Sini's incident in the morning. Chen Fugue did not care about what happened in the morning because even if Chen Sini was dead, it was just a nameless nobody who could be dealt with money. But now that Chen Sini's friends and family had come to his house, it was a threat to his and his daughter's safety. Therefore, Chen Fugue's expression darkened immediately. Bodyguards. Where are the bodyguards? Get this lunatic out of here. Chen Fugue immediately took out a walkie-talkie and said a few words into it. After he finished speaking, more than 10 bodyguards rushed in from the main door. They were all burly and strong, all of them extraordinary. You want to fight with me? Do you think you're worthy? Yun Jian curled her lips coldly. After she finished speaking, she flipped her hand and an exquisite butterfly knife appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Knife! She actually carries a knife with her. The moment they saw Yun Jian unsheath the knife, everyone present exclaimed in shock and immediately found a secluded corner to hide. Everyone present was a powerless tycoon. However, just as everyone was stunned, Chen Fuhao swallowed a mouthful of saliva. More than 10 bodyguards surrounded Yun Jian. One of the bodyguards suddenly looked at Yun Jian and shouted in front of everyone. He was so scared that he retreated to a corner and did not dare to fight with Yun Jian. Chapter 1689. This bodyguard was obviously one of the bodyguards who witnessed everything when Yun Jian went to Cheetah Bodyguard Company for training and defeated Lin Kuei, the chief bodyguard of Cheetah Bodyguard Company. This bodyguard was a member of Cheetah Bodyguard Company. At this moment, when he saw Yun Jian and recalled Yun Jian's skills, he was almost scared to death. This bodyguard was hired by Chen Fugue to protect his personal safety and happened to be a bodyguard of Cheetah Bodyguard Company. But after seeing Yun Jian, this bodyguard actually retreated to a corner. And what did this bodyguard say just now? Lin Kuei is the most powerful chief bodyguard of Cheetah Bodyguard Company. For a big shot like Lin Kuei, he was a famous big shot even in the international arena. You're saying she defeated Lin Kuei? This kind of thing, how is it possible? The old man who caused everyone present to have a different view of Yun Jian's face gradually sank. His face was changing at the speed of light. The old man's eyes widened in fear as he looked at Yun Jian in disbelief. Who was Lin Kuei? For example, even Chen Fugue, who was the richest man in the southern region, couldn't invite Lin Kuei to be his bodyguard. For a person of Lin Kuei's status, only an absolutely important person would be able to move him. Moreover, Lin Kuei's status in the international community was well known. Hiring a bodyguard was a way for some rich people to protect their own lives. Generally, no matter what kind of accident happened, the bodyguard would not withdraw before the employer safely left. If the bodyguard did so, it would be a violation of the contract and the compensation would be deducted. The bodyguard company would even have to compensate the employer for the bodyguard. Not only that, it would also affect the company's reputation. All the bodyguards were aware of this, so sometimes even if their lives were in danger, they would not back down. But the bodyguard who said that Yun Jian defeated Lin Kuei was so scared by Yun Jian that he directly retreated to a corner. It was conceivable that in his impression, Yun Jian was even more terrifying than compensating the employer. Therefore, everyone present was frightened by the bodyguard's action and behavior. How is it impossible? I saw her defeat Lin Kuei with my own eyes. Moreover, he only used one move to defeat Lin Kuei. He really only used one move. One move. The bodyguard immediately replied to the old man in a frightened voice. When the crowd heard this, their expressions changed rapidly. What? She defeated Lin Kuei from your cheetah bodyguard company in one move. As soon as the bodyguard finished speaking, many frightened and shocked voices sounded from the surroundings. Just now, the bodyguard said that Yun Jian had defeated Lin Kuei. This was already unbelievable. But the problem was, Yun Jian defeated Lin Kuei in one move. What kind of power was this? Was she really just a teenage girl? At this moment, Chen Fugue recalled what Yun Jian had called herself. The chairman of New Cruise. Falcon Hall's boss Rakshasa. Could it be that she really, Chen Fuhao gulped hard. If Yun Jian was really the owner of New Cruise and Falcon Hall, it would not be good to have another enemy even though it would not cause him to go bankrupt. Moreover, he had heard that New Cruise's chairman and Falcon Hall's Rakshasa were both young women. Therefore, Chen Fugue wanted to make peace with Yun Jian. He spoke to Yun Jian. Your friend isn't dead, right? How about this, let's both take a step back. How much does your friend want? I'll write her a check. Is that okay? Chen Fugue was not sure of Yun Jian's identity, so he had already taken a step back when he spoke to Yun Jian. He had to take a step back because of Yun Jian's shocking power. Chen Fugue was known for being unreasonable. His willingness to take a step back was already unbelievable to the crowd. Just as Chen Fugue spoke, however, Yun Jian's cold voice rang again. She spoke without backing down. She did not back down and said, "We don't need money." At this point, she paused. Then what do you need? Chen Fugue's expression darkened. I want her dead. As soon as the words were spoken, Yun Jian moved at a speed that was invisible to the naked eye. She went around Chen Fugue and appeared before Chen Yaching in a flash, kicking her to the ground. Chapter 1690. Yun Jian did not hold back when she stabbed Chen Yaching's abdomen, crushing her organs on the spot. Chen Sini had almost died. Why did she say that? The surgery was very dangerous because it involved the brain. Moreover, she did not take over immediately. In the end, it was Yun Jian who saved her by force. For that, she even used the spiritual energy of Yulong mainland. If she used the spiritual energy of Yulong mainland on Earth, her cultivation base would not improve for 100 years. Her physique was different from other cultivators. Others could not improve their cultivation base for 100 years, but if she used her spiritual energy on Earth, there would be no improvement for 10 years. To save Chen Sini, to be the first friend she met in Longmen City, Yun Jian was willing to not develop her spiritual energy for 10 years. There was a limit to a person's patience. Some things could be forgiven but others must pay a painful price. Even if Chen Sini did not die, her brain had been ruptured and she could no longer run or do any strenuous exercise in the future. The after effects would last forever. After knowing that Chen Sini might die, Chen Yaching dressed herself up prettily and attended the party as if nothing had happened. Yun Jian was indeed different from her past life after her rebirth. It did not mean that she would tolerate everything. Chen Yaching must die today. Ah! Ah! After the knife stabbed into Chen Yaching's abdomen, Chen Yaching cried out in pain. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. After she stabbed the butterfly knife into Chen Yaching's abdomen, she moved the knife from her abdomen to her heart, sending Chen Yaching to hell by disembowelment. Blood gushed out like a hot spring and dyed the floor of Chen Fugue's living room red. Chen Yaching died on the spot. Qing-er. Qing-er. You killed Qing-er. You. I'm going to kill you. Ah. I'm going to kill you. Chen Fugue only recovered from his shock after a long while. His pupils constricted and he broke down completely the moment he saw Chen Yaqing's death. Go to hell. Ah! I want you to pay with your life. I want you to pay with your life. Chen Fugue had completely broken down. He flew towards Yunjian, roaring as he rushed towards Yunjian. Color drained from everyone's faces from Yunjian's behavior. She actually killed Chen Yaqing. How dare you? You actually. Before Chen Fugue could reach Yunjian, Yunjian kicked Chen Fugue away. She followed closely behind and kicked Chen Fugue in the stomach. Why wouldn't I dare? Not only you, but everyone here today will be destroyed because of you. At this moment, Yunjian's gaze was terrifyingly cold. Even Zhang Xiaofeng and Ling Yichen were a little shocked. The moment Chen Fugue was kicked to the ground by Yunjian, he was so scared that he couldn't stop trembling. The moment Yunjian killed Chen Yaqing, the people around them screamed and ran for the door. However, before she could reach the entrance, she saw Qin Yu and Gu Nianji leading a dozen women in black with a skull mark on their wrists walking in from outside. At the same time, the people Qin Yu and Gu Nianji brought stopped the people in the room from running out. Sister Jian. Qin Yu and Gu Nianji greeted Yun Jian with a nod when they saw her. Who are they? The people present paled when they saw the people Qin Yu and Gu Nianji brought in. They have skulls on their wrists. Isn't that the mark of the ancient killer mercenary group? What? The people present were paralyzed on the spot. Why are the Kosha mercenaries here? Someone shouted in horror. Momo. Could it be? Someone suddenly looked at Yun Jian. Could she be one of the Kosha mercenaries? Yun Jian, who had her foot on Chen Fugue's stomach, had her back facing Qin Yu, Gu Nianji, and the dozen Kosha mercenaries behind them as she spoke coldly that would decide everyone's fate. The chilliness of her words sent chills down everyone's spine. Chapter 1691. That one sentence had decided everyone's fate. They could only blame themselves for befriending Chen Fugue. For a moment, the sounds of slaughter were heard. Standing among the corpses, Yun Jian's expression was calm, making it impossible to tell if she was happy or sad. Zhang Xiaofeng and Ling Yichen felt like they were looking at the god of slaughter. Yun Jian, who stood among the corpses and pools of blood, was a perfect match for the scene. It was as if she was meant to live in such an environment. At that moment, Yun Jian felt like she had returned to her past life, the world where blood was spilled. It was an era filled with bloodshed. The next day, something major happened in Longmen City. The richest millionaire in the southern region was having a party, but unfortunately, a fire broke out. The doors were shut tight and everyone was burned to death by the raging fire. There were no exceptions to the disaster. Many of the millionaires who were invited to the party died on the spot as well. When the fire was discovered and extinguished, everyone was burned to death. Some were not even left with their bones. When the news was released, not only Longmen City, but the entire Zhe province and even the entire country Z was shocked. It sounded like a massacre, but there was no evidence at the scene. In the end, the police concluded that it was an accident and closed the case without further investigation. Chen Xinyi was unconscious for 3 days. When she woke up, she could not move her head as it was supported by a skeleton. Pain. It was excruciating pain. Chen Xinyi was in agony the entire night after she woke up. There were a few times when she wanted to commit suicide, but after hearing from Zhang Xiaofeng and Ling Yichen that it was Yun Jian who saved her life, she fainted a few times from the pain but managed to hang on. Every time she could not take it anymore, Zhang Xiaofeng would go to Chen Xinyi and tell her that Chen Yaqing was dead and that God had punished her by making her die. They did not mention a word about what happened that day. And the culprit of this incident, Zhang Qingjun, was paralyzed because he was not sent to the hospital in time. He could only sit in a wheelchair for the rest of his life. Zhang Xiaofeng accompanied Qin Sini day and night. He was afraid that Qin Sini would commit suicide because of the pain, so he often told Qin Sini some interesting things. When Qin Sini was in too much pain to bear, he would let Qin Sini bite his hand. As soon as Yun Jian came out of Qin Sini's ward in the hospital, she heard the shouts from a distance. "Doctor! Doctor! My son can't be paralyzed. He could not spend the rest of his life in a wheelchair. Please think of something. As long as we can save him, we can spend as much money as you want." When Yun Jian went downstairs and arrived at the main entrance of the People's Hospital, she saw a middle-aged couple pestering a hospital staff, begging. Sitting in the wheelchair next to him was Zhang Qingjun. Next to Zhang Qingjun stood the timid headmaster Shi of No. 1 Middle School. When Yun Jian walked over, she happened to hear the doctor say to the middle-aged couple, "We really have no other way, but there is someone who can cure his leg." "Who?" The couple's eyes lit up with excitement. The woman known as the Hand of Death in the medical field. The patient in Ward 506 was originally declared dead, but she was the one who saved him, the doctor said. As soon as he finished speaking, the timid headmaster shirt suddenly pointed at Yun Jian, who was about to leave, and shouted, "It's her." She stabbed Zhang Qingjun's leg. Hearing that the person who harmed their son was passing by, the couple turned around and pounced on Yun Jian crazily. "It's you. It's you. You harmed our Junjun. You're so vicious at such a young age. Why don't you die?" As soon as the couple pounced on Yun Jian dodged sideways. Her face was exposed to the doctor's eyes. "It's all her fault. It's all her fault. This has nothing to do with me." Headmaster Shi wanted to get rid of the responsibility. He pointed at Yun Jian and said to the couple. However, just as Headmaster Shi and the couple were glaring at Yun Jian with hatred, wanting nothing more than to tear Yun Jian into pieces, they saw the doctor quickly walk up to Yun Jian. He bowed to Yun Jian and said respectfully, "You. Why are you here?" After asking, the doctor turned to look at Headmaster Shi and the couple. He pointed at Yun Jian and introduced her. Chapter 1692. The Hand of Death. Her. She is the hand of death in your medical field. Are you kidding me? When the doctor pointed at Yun Jian and told Zhang Qingjun's mother what he said just now, the parents were dumbfounded. Both of them turned to look at Yun Jian in disbelief and exclaimed in shock. Especially Zhang Qingjun's mother, Mrs. Wen. Her son had always been her pride. She had a son, so she had a special status in her husband's family. The most important thing was that her son was not only handsome, but also the most handsome boy in the school. He really got his strong genes. Mrs. Wen had always been proud of that. But she never thought that her son would be stabbed by a crazy woman in the school. His legs were paralyzed and he could no longer walk. Mrs. Wen always thought that the girls in the school were not good enough for her son. In fact, Mrs. Wen didn't know the reason why Zhang Qingjun had an accident. She put all the blame on Yun Jian. So when Mrs. Wen just knew that the person who hurt her son was Yun Jian, she rushed up to vent her anger without saying anything. But Mrs. Wen never thought that the girl who hurt her son was the top doctor in the medical field, the Hand of Death, who could even save a patient who had been declared dead. The girl who caused his son to become like this was actually the only person in the world who could save his son. The enemy became the person who needed to be flattered. This, Mrs. Wen was stunned. She never thought that things would turn out like this. Zhang Qingjun, who was sitting in the wheelchair, was also completely stunned. Headmaster Sure of number 1 middle school was also petrified. As a doctor, I also have the professional ethics of a doctor. I never joke about this kind of thing. At that time, the heart and brain of the patient in Ward 506 had stopped working in the emergency room. Originally, he was completely dead. But as soon as she took action, the person strangely came back to life. I've seen it with my own eyes. Other than the hand of death, in our medical field, no one else can do it. The doctor was very unhappy after hearing Mrs. Wen's words. In addition, he wanted to show off in front of Yunjian, so he said to Mrs. Wen in a very impatient tone. Since the doctor dared to say so, how could it be fake? No matter how much they didn't believe it, they had no choice but to believe it. You really are the hand of death. It's impressive that you're so capable at such a young age, but don't blame me for not reminding you. You've provoked someone you shouldn't have. Zhang Qingjuan's father was much calmer than Yunjian. At this moment, Zhang Qingjuan's father, Zhang Di, was looking at Yunjian with a serious expression. After that, Zhang Di's expression calmed down a little. He stared at Yunjian and directly stated his purpose. My son is sitting in a wheelchair because of you. As long as you find a way to cure him, I won't pursue your responsibility. Otherwise, based on this alone, I want you to spend the rest of your life in prison. Zhang Di didn't think that there was anyone behind Yunjian. With Zhang Di's influence, destroying a girl was a piece of cake. The most important thing now was to cure his son's leg. As for whether he would really let Yunjian go, it was hard to say. I won't cure him. Under Zhang Di's threat, Yunjian said almost without hesitation. As for what you said, whether I'll spend the rest of my life in prison. Yunjian had already walked up to Zhang Di and the other two. She glanced sideways at Zhang Di and the other two. Her red lips curved slightly, and she said to them in a voice that only Zhang Di and the other two could hear, Do you know about the strange fire that happened in the villa on Jifang Road 2 days ago? If you want to disappear from this world forever like them, then you're welcome to do it to me. After a pause, Yunjian's expression suddenly turned cold. The moment Zhang Di and the other two's faces suddenly became frightened, she said sinisterly. Chapter 1693. Yunjian's words were cold, making Zhang Di and the other two feel as if they were in a world of ice and snow, frozen by thick ice. Zhang Qingjun, Zhang Di, and Mrs. Wen all shivered unconsciously. When they carefully recalled what Yunjian said just now, Zhang Qingjuan's eyes widened abruptly as his pupils constricted. Glaring at Yunjian, he nearly shouted with his mouth agape. In the end, afraid of Yunjian, he lowered his voice and said fearfully, There was a fire in Qin Yaqing's house, and all the guests, including the host, died in the fire. Was it you? Could it be that you did it? But Zhang Qingjun didn't dare to shout out the last sentence. It was because he saw Yunjian's right hand poking out of her pants pocket. Between the fingers of her right hand was a butterfly knife that had yet to be unsheathed. The gleam of the butterfly knife flashed briefly. Seeing this, Zhang Qingjun swallowed a mouthful of saliva. The fire in the villa on Jifang Road shocked the whole Zhe province and even the whole Zi country. Chen Fugue was the richest man in the southern region and had a certain influence in the whole Zi country. That fire took the lives of Chen Fugue's family without warning, including all the rich people who went to Chen Fugue's house to attend the party. It was sudden, but now that Yunjian had mentioned it, she was shocked. In addition, Qin Yaqing was the culprit who almost killed Chen Sini. On the day of the fire, Yunjian went to school to find him. Putting the two together, Yunjian, Zhang Qingjun, who suddenly realized this, looked at Yunjian in horror. Chen Fugue was the richest man in the southern region. Yunjian was too scary. She could even kill the richest man in the southern region without leaving a trace. Just what kind of power was behind her? Zhang Qingjuan's eyes widened in horror. Mrs. Wen and Zhang Di immediately felt that something was wrong. Mrs. Wen and Zhang Di didn't know how their son Zhang Qingjun provoked Yun Jian, but they were not stupid. Naturally, they understood the meaning of Yun Jian's words. Moreover, Zhang Qingjun was only halfway through his sentence. The richest man in the southern region, Chen Fugui's family, was quietly exterminated. Was this done by Yun Jian? Zhang Di and Mrs. Wen's faces darkened at the same time. Who was Chen Fugui? Even on the international stage, Chen Fugui was still a big shot. Although Zhang Di's family background was illustrious, compared to Chen Fugui's family background, it was not even worth a blade of grass. Yun Jian could annihilate Chen Fugui's family without a sound. How could the Zhang clan afford to offend him? At this moment, Zhang Di and Madame Wen couldn't help but tremble in their hearts. How did their family's Jun provoke such a terrifying woman? No, it was a girl. She wasn't even human. Even if the girl named Qin Sini accidentally pushed her down the stairs, her head hit the ground and she died. She didn't need to silence Qin Yaqing's family. But she really killed Qin Yaqing's family. He had really managed to wipe out an entire sect without a sound. Junjun, we don't want to treat you anymore. Mom will take care of you forever. Mom will protect you. Let's go. Let's go. Mrs. Wen's face turned green with fear. How could she dare to stay here? If she stayed any longer, she would lose her life. Mrs. Wen hurried over to push Zhang Qingjuan's wheelchair. She reached out and pulled her husband Zhang Di's clothes. They hurried out of the hospital gate. Before they walked out of the hospital gate, they heard a sharp female voice behind them. The three of them were scared and their faces changed again. Did I say you could go? As soon as she finished speaking, Yun Jian had already flashed to the three of them. You. What do you want? Mrs. Wen's face was pale with fear. She stuttered and asked Yun Jian. Chapter 1694. Kowtow and apologize before leaving. Why? Zhang Qingjun naturally knew what Yun Jian meant, but Zhang Qingjuan's parents had no idea. Mrs. Wen didn't even know why Yun Jian did this to her precious son. In Mrs. Wen's and Zhang Di's eyes, their precious son did nothing wrong. It was Yun Jian's epilepsy that provoked Zhang Qingjun from the beginning. Maybe it was because their son was handsome and Yun Jian failed to pursue their son before. Then she went crazy and wanted to take revenge on him. Mrs. Wen and Zhang Di didn't know the situation, so Zhang Qingjun naturally didn't tell his parents how he used Qin Sini as a scapegoat to stop Qin Yaqing, the ugly girl who pursued him. However, he didn't expect that Qin Yaqing pushed Qin Sini directly down from the second floor during the quarrel. My son is already like this. What does he have to do with your friend? My son is an upright person. Why should he kowtow and apologize to your friend? Mrs. Wen was afraid of Yun Jian, but now they were at the gate of the hospital and there were many people around. Maybe it was a big hospital, so Mrs. Wen was very bold to reply to Yun Jian. You can ask your son whether he has anything to do with me or not. Today, I must apologize. Of course, you can choose not to apologize. If you are burned alive in your sleep one day, it has nothing to do with me. Hearing this, Yun Jian knew that Mrs. Wen and Zhang Di must think that their son was innocent. Zhang Qingjun definitely didn't tell Mrs. Wen and Zhang Di about the dirty and shameless things he did. He was the culprit who almost killed Qin Sini. After Yun Jian said this, Zhang Qingjun was really scared. She was cruel that day. She mercilessly stabbed the knife into his thigh. The pain was still vivid in his mind. I was wrong. It's all my fault. I'm the one who harmed Chinsini. I'll kowtow and apologize. I'll kowtow and apologize. I'll go. I'll go. Zhang Qingjun shouted at Yun Jian and then told Mrs. Wen and Zhang Di what he did. Room 506. Chinsini's head was held up and she couldn't move. Compared to a few days ago, her head didn't hurt as much, but she could still feel waves of pain. The pain from a few days ago made her feel that there was no hope for her to live in this world. Now, she was obviously much better. Chinsini's mother, Yixia, stood aside with her back to Chinsini, wiping her tears. Chinsini's father, Qin Jinchuan, stood aside and sighed in pain. Jinchuan, I've sent someone to ask around. This matter is not easy to handle. Zhang Qingjuan's father, Zhang Di, is a big shot. Even if we sue him, we won't get any benefits, one of Qin Jinchuan's friends said regretfully to Qin Jinchuan. As Chinsini's father, Qin Jinchuan naturally didn't want to let the matter rest. Then what can I do? Am I supposed to just watch my daughter suffer like this for nothing? Qin Jinchuan stood at the door so that Chinsini, who was in the ward, would not hear him. He suppressed his voice and said painfully. Was there really no way to deal with Zhang Qingjun, the culprit? Just as Qin Jinchuan and his friends were standing there and the atmosphere was at its lowest point, suddenly, a person was thrown in through the door. Everyone took a closer look. Wasn't this person Zhang Qingjun? Outside the door, Yun Jian threw Zhang Qingjun into the room and walked over. She stepped on Zhang Qingjun's back in front of everyone and knocked Zhang Qingjun's head hard in the direction of Chinsini's bed. Then, Yun Jian turned around and shouted at the door, "You two, get in here and kowtow together." After that, Zhang Di and his wife, Mrs. Wen, who were still discussing how difficult it was to deal with, ran into the room trembling. They obediently knelt down in the direction of Chinsini's bed. Chapter 1695. Everyone who saw this scene was petrified. Principal Shi, who was with Zhang Di and Mrs. Wen just now, sneaked away. Yun Jian didn't bother to care about him. After Principal Shi slipped away, Yun Jian directly pulled Zhang Qingjun and the other two into the ward. At this moment, seeing Zhang Qingjun, Zhang Di, and Mrs. Wen obediently listening to Yun Jian, they all knelt down and kowtowed to Chinsini. Whether it was Chinsini's father, Qin Jinchuan, or Chinsini's mother, Yixia, who was sobbing secretly at the side, blaming her daughter for what she had gone through. In the end, the culprit was still at large. Everyone, including Chinsini's relatives who came to visit her in the hospital, saw this scene and couldn't help but be shocked. Of course, everyone present recognized Zhang Di. They had also seen Zhang Qingjun's photo. Especially Qin Jinchuan. His daughter had suffered so much. If he didn't even know what the person who hurt his daughter looked like, how could he be a father? Therefore, the moment he saw Zhang Qingjun, Zhang Di, and Mrs. Wen being driven into the room by Yun Jian and kneeling down to apologize, Qin Jinchuan and his relatives and friends were all dumbfounded. Jinchuan, this is... The middle-aged man, who had just said that Zhang Qingjun's father was a big shot and difficult to deal with, saw this scene and came back to his senses after a long time. He had asked someone to ask whether Zhang Qingjun's case could be solved. However, the news he got was that Zhang Qingjun's father, Zhang Di, was very powerful. This was not easy to deal with. This also meant that even if Chinsini couldn't be cured and died, it would be good for Qin Yaqing and Zhang Qingjun. Qin Jinchuan was not strong enough to deal with them at all. To be honest, if he was not strong enough and his family members were killed by others, nothing would happen to them at all. His family members died in vain. That was why the middle-aged man was so surprised. Who on earth was Yun Jian? How could she make Zhang Di and Zhang Qingjun, who even he and Chen Jinchuan couldn't handle, obediently kowtowed and apologized to Chen Sini. How capable was this little girl? How could she make such a big shot like Zhang Di and his son take the initiative to apologize to Chen Sini? Naturally, Chen Jinchuan didn't know the reason. He stared blankly at the scene in front of him. It wasn't hard to guess that Yun Jian must be capable. That was why Zhang Di and Zhang Qingjun came to apologize. However, before anyone could react, Yun Jian brought Zhang Di and Zhang Qingjun here to kowtow and apologize to Chen Sini. On the other side, Yun Jian stomped on Zhang Di's head, slamming it to the ground. Is that all you've got? I want you to kowtow and apologize, not wipe the floor and apologize. Yun Jian's chilling words rang in everyone's ears, eliciting a wave of fear in them. The fact that Zhang Di came to apologize to Chen Sini was shocking enough. It was something that no one had expected. But this little girl. She dared to step on Zhang Di's head and ask him to apologize to Chen Sini. Yes, yes, yes. I'm sorry, it's my son's fault. It's all my son Zhang Qingjuan's fault. I apologize to you here. I apologize to you. We won't dare to do it again. Zhang Di was afraid of Yun Jian. With Yun Jian stepping on his head, he kowtowed and apologized to Chen Sini. In the end, his forehead was almost bleeding. Yun Jian stepped on Zhang Di's head. Seeing that Zhang Qingjun didn't kowtow hard enough, she stepped on Zhang Qingjuan's head again. Only the sound of kowtowing could be heard. That sound alone was enough to make people's hair stand on end, not to mention those who experienced it themselves. It was only when the trio's heads were bleeding from the kowtowing that Yun Jian released her foot and took a step back. Everyone saw a handsome man coming in from outside the gate. The handsome man stood there, hugged Yun Jian's waist from behind, and whispered softly in her ear that everyone present could hear. Chapter 1696. Yun Jian's heart calmed down when she sensed the familiar aura. It's them. Yun Jian's back was pressed against Siyi's chest. Her beautiful and slender fingers pointed at the three men kneeling in front of Chen Sini. Perhaps because Siyi was here, her tense heart gradually relaxed. She even spoke in a coquettish tone. Of course, Siyi was the only one who thought so. Yun Jian was already used to Siyi coming to find her at any time. She leaned against Siyi's sturdy chest and looked at the three men. If the people standing around hadn't seen Yun Jian's cruel methods against the three men, they would probably have thought that Yun Jian was the one being bullied. However, Yun Jian would only show this kind of attitude in front of Siyi. Siyi wrapped his arms around Yun Jian's slender waist. He felt Yun Jian's soft body and couldn't help but lean in close to Yun Jian's ear. He didn't hold back in front of everyone. Then I'll kill them, okay? Siyi put his lips next to Yun Jian's ear as if he was coaxing a child. His sharp eyes sized up the three men. This handsome man who angered both men and gods actually kept saying the word kill. It was as if to him, killing someone was as simple as eating a mouthful of rice. At this moment, not only did the three men kneeling on the ground kowtow even harder, they cried out, "Don't kill me, I'll kowtow, I'll kowtow." Even Chen Sini's relatives were so frightened that their faces changed. From the moment Ce appeared, he gave everyone the feeling that, as long as Yun Jian was happy, even if she asked him to pluck the stars from the sky, he wouldn't complain at all. It was unbelievably indulgent. Every word he uttered was unimaginably indulgent. There was actually a man who pampered his woman so much in this world. Jian Jian, thank you. If it weren't for you, I'd be in hell now. You've been running around a lot for me these few days, get rid of them. I don't want to see these scum and trash of society anymore. Chen Sini spoke all of a sudden at this moment. Chen Sini couldn't move her head, so her voice came from the bed. Chen Xinyi was very touched, but she also felt a little guilty. Yun Jian had saved her life, and now Yun Jian had to run around to avenge her. That was why he told Zhang Qingjun and the others to scram so that he would not have to trouble Jian Jian. I'm so lucky to have a friend like you. If anything happens to you in the future, even if you want me to go to hell, I'll go for you. Chen Xinyi muttered a few words in her heart. There was no need to talk about repaying favors all the time. Those who truly repaid favors usually did so when they no longer needed you. Get lost. Yun Jian kicked Zhang Qingjun, who was closest to her when she heard what Chen Xinyi said. This kick caused Zhang Qingjun and the other two to quickly get up from the ground. Zhang Qingjun was pulled back into the wheelchair, and the three of them ran away as fast as they could without looking back. It was true that Ce wanted to kill Zhang Qingjun and the other two men, but he did not want to let go of Yun Jian's tender body after a while. Could he be blamed? His Xiao Jian's charm was too great. He had to get her in bed sooner or later. Caress her soft body, hold her, and make a baby. Ce's hand was placed on Yun Jian's stomach without a trace. He pressed his lips together and thought wickedly. This place would bear his child sooner or later. Chapter 1697. Yun Jian did not know that Ce, who was hugging her, had her hand on her tummy and was still thinking about such naughty things. She left with Ce after exchanging a few words with Chen Xinyi. Chen Xinyi still needed to rest. When she left, Yun Jian bumped into Zhang Xiaofeng outside the People's Hospital. Master, you're here to see Xinyi. Why are you leaving so soon? Zhang Xiaofeng asked Yun Jian as he carried Chen Xinyi's favorite peach that he had just bought from a faraway place. We'll be leaving first. We still have to pick up my younger siblings from school, Yun Jian replied with a nod at Zhang Xiaofeng with pursed lips. Yun Jian had to pick up Xiao Yunju, Duanli, and Duanya from elementary school because Qin Yiru was working overtime today. Yun Jian did not go to the military academy because Chen Xinyi had taken leave for the past 2 days. She stayed at home to help Qin Yiru fetch Xiao Yunju and the other two from school. Yun Jian did not go to school these 2 days because Chen Xinyi was not in a good condition initially. If she went to school, Chen Xinyi's condition would worsen and she would be done for. Therefore, Yun Jian stayed in Longmen City instead of going to school. She could rush here immediately if there were any changes in Chen Xinyi's condition. Since Qin Yiru was working overtime today and Ce was back, Yun Jian and Ce went to the elementary school to pick up Xiao Yunju and the other two from school. Xiao Yunju's school did not allow parents to enter as they were afraid that criminals would raid the school. There were only children in the school. It would be bad if something happened to them. Therefore, parents were standing at the school gate to pick up their children. They were surrounded by parents. Yun Jian and Ce attracted a lot of attention because of their outstanding looks. Yun Jian was not short. She was already 1.65 meters tall. Ce's height of 1.85 meters was impressive. The two of them stood out in the crowd. However, what was even more eye-catching was that Ce was holding Yun Jian's small hand with one hand, while his other hand was lazily stuffed into his trouser pocket. His handsome face coupled with his figure was enough to make young girls, and even middle-aged women, scream. It was simply too conspicuous. Xiao Yunju and the other two ran out of the school and threw themselves in front of Yun Jian and Ce. Ce held Xiao Yunju's hand while Yun Jian held Duanli and Duanya's hands. The 5 of them left the crowd like a family. Ce and Yun Jian could still hear the murmurs of the crowd. Look, don't tell me those 3 children belong to that couple. Are you serious? That couple looks very young to me. That guy is so handsome. Some people just look so young. They might even be in their 20s or 30s. I think that girl is also very pretty. Walking together with that guy, they are really a match made in heaven. And look, look! They were holding the three children's hands as if they were their own. Ah! I'm about to be brainwashed by this scene. The group of female parents who were standing at the same spot were discussing fervently. However, they did not know that their words were all heard by Yunjian and Ce. Yunjian blushed, while Ce's handsome lips curved upwards. He enjoyed this feeling very much. Sister. Sister. Brother Ce. When can you give birth to a little Ce for me to play with? Mama Chin said that babies need a year to be born. Can I see little Ce on this day next year? Xiao Yunju shook Ce's large hand twice before looking at Yunjian and Ce with anticipation. Hearing Xiao Yunju's sudden question, Yunjian blushed but she did not say anything. You'll see, Ce said with a charming grin with a smirk where no one was looking. Xiao Yunju would see his and Xiao Jian's child sooner or later. It would not be a little Ce but a bunch of little Ce's. Chapter 1698. As soon as they reached home, it started raining outside and the wind started blowing. The rain started drizzling, but it soon turned into a downpour and the weather changed. At this moment, Yunjian and Ce brought Xiao Yunju, Duanling Tian, and Duanling Tian into the house. As soon as they entered, Xiao Yunju, Duanli, and Duanya ran to turn on the TV to watch the popular cartoon Doraemon. If Qin Yiru was at home, she would have asked the three of them to finish their homework before playing. However, Xiao Yunju, Duanli, and Duanya took advantage of the fact that their mother was not at home to watch the cartoon on TV. From time to time, they would laugh out loud at the characters in the cartoon. When Yunjian saw that Xiao Yunju, Duanling Tian, and Duanling Tian were having so much fun, her red lips curled into a beautiful smile. She instructed Ce to look after Xiao Yunju and Duanling Tian before returning to her room. Ce was very obedient and did not follow her. He sat beside the sofa where Xiao Yunju, Duanling Tian, and Duanling Tian were sitting. He placed his bony hands behind his head and closed his eyes lazily. His handsome face was so perfect that if there were anyone present, they would be amazed that such a handsome man existed in this world. Yunjian went back to her room to take a shower and change into a clean set of clothes. She went downstairs in less than 10 minutes. She even answered a call on the way. When she saw that Xiao Yunju, Duanling Tian, and Duanling Tian were still obediently watching the cartoon, Yunjian nodded to Ce. My mom just called me and asked me to bring her an umbrella. It's raining so heavily and she forgot to bring an umbrella. You stay at home and look after Xiao Zhu and Duanling Tian. Don't let them run around. To Ce, these words sounded like the instructions of a wife to her husband. His handsome lips curved as he silently agreed. Then, Yunjian walked to the front door, took 2 umbrellas from the umbrella rack, and walked out. Xiao Yunju and the other 2 naturally needed someone to accompany them at home. Yunjian didn't want Ce to go with her. He asked him to stay at home and watch over Xiao Yunju and the other 2. The wind and rain outside were even heavier. The rain was like basins of water pouring down from the sky. If there were pedestrians strolling on the streets, even if they had umbrellas, they would definitely be drenched. In this kind of weather, traffic police usually wouldn't stand on the road. Therefore, Yunjian drove her newly repaired LaFerrari supercar to the flower shop to pick up Qin Yiru from work. Yun Jian's Ferrari LaFerrari supercar was sent back to Ferrari's headquarters for repair after it was wrecked the last time. Yun Jian stepped on the gas pedal amidst the heavy rain and howling wind. The car moved forward slowly, followed by a loud roar around them. Along with the fiery red supercar, it disappeared into the air. In the flower shop. The employees in the shop had already gotten off work. However, many of the employees who didn't bring umbrellas were standing at the front door, waiting for their relatives and friends to pick them up. The employees in the shop had changed. Many of Qin Yira's employees had left. Most of the employees in the shop were middle-aged women who were around the same age as Qin Yiru. After all, they had a child mentality. At this moment, Qin Yiru was standing at the front door. A middle-aged woman asked Qin Yiru confidently, "Qin Yiru, does anyone send you? My daughter is coming to pick me up." Qin Yiru smiled at the middle-aged woman. This middle-aged woman was called Hu Yan. She was usually a very proud person. She was the most proud of her son. Now that she was talking to Qin Yiru, she couldn't help but show off that her son could afford a car. "Is that so? Your daughter is sending you an umbrella. That's quite tiring. My son drove a Volkswagen. I told him not to come, but he still insisted on coming to pick me up. Hey! He's filial. I'm so lucky." You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.